I gotta fix that. Let's see, if I go to 0, does it put up the mute flash thing too? If I just leave it like that. Okay, good. If that had been over my shoulder, this had been over my shoulder the entire time, everybody would just start gaslighting themselves into, is this my machine? Am I going insane? It's not your machine. It's mine in that scenario. Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Jimmy Snow. This is Cuz I Wanna, the show where I go because I wanna and I talk about what I wanna. And to tell you the truth, even what I want to talk about today is a whole mess of things. But also, the funny thing is I was kind of sick earlier, and then I was like, could I still do it? It'll probably be fine. And then I started to feel better. And then at some point went, okay, I'm feeling better enough that I'm pretty sure I could do at least 90 minutes with no interruption. And like 5 minutes ago, my body was like, you might need at least one bathroom break during this whole thing. So beware of spontaneous bathroom break. That might be part of our future. That might be part of what we're here doing together today. So I want to tell you about some things that are on my mind, some things that prompted me to wanna, the where the wanna comes from. And I'll say the number one thing was I was doing some woodworking last night and Matt was doing his Cuz I Wanna, and I got wanna envy. I got Cuz I Wanna envy and was like, yo, I kind of wanna now too. Like it was almost like while that show was going, I was like, man, I'm like in the mood to do a show also. I wish I had a show that I could just do after his show at any time. And so the funny thing is obviously we do. That's what this show is. Cuz I Wanna, when you have the impulse. Hang on, I'm changing some settings for the people who are calling in. By the way, that number is 720-619-2288. There's also a web link in the description. I guess I could put my own fucking name up. That might make some people happy there. Is this going to put the right banner up? It is. All right, great. I'm Jimmy Snow. This is Cuz I Wanna. The second reason I wanna, because yes, again, the call-in show format's obviously so enjoyable. I just have I have old. So it's funny because this is back when Matt still worked at AXP, and so he had an AXP background on. But I just have old episodes of The Line on in the background right now for anybody who's wondering what's going on with the background. Second thing I would say is I wanted to announce a new thing that's coming. That's going to be an exciting thing, I believe. That we might broadcast, but it'll be certainly for patrons. And then on top of that, I just want to rant and rave and stuff about different things. But especially, I'd love to talk to theists who want to call in and chat about things and or whatever other things I might disagree with people on. Of course, we have lines open for atheists as well, people who are looking for advice. People who are looking for guidance, or people who disagree with me on other things. I will tell you, one of the things that has been coming up lately that I wonder if it's my fault, because it's been coming up a lot since I brought it up on, I feel like I had not seen it brought up almost ever. And then I brought it up in an episode where I want to say it was either an episode Aron was soloing on and I producer voice talking about it a little bit, or it was an episode just before that episode and then the calls started to come. But it's been about this concept of universal determinism, whether or not whether or not we have what some people would call free will, free agency, whether or not the view, my view that I am most seduced by, again, not giving this the quality of I'm sure of this the way I am sure of most other things that I am sure of, rather. I'm not putting it on a scientific level, but also not far from it either. The sort of view that I'm most seduced by, that basically everything that is happening was set to happen immediately after, or maybe even at the point of the Big Bang, that everything follows natural chemical processes, everything in your brain, everything, even your experience of making choices, the choice was made by a set of factors that basically put it into motion long ago. Everything is neurons firing, even the language in which you assess things have to do with where you were born often and how you were brought up and all of these types of conditioning. And that basically when you picked pizza over ice cream, when the Big Bang happened, you were always going to pick pizza in that moment. And it's been coming up a lot. And the reason why it's been sort of on my mind is that it doesn't matter at all. Because like we're dedicating a lot of time to it, and I'm willing to keep having the conversations, though I'd like for them to shorten, because I've noticed that some of these conversations are taking long periods of time, and I don't think a lot of people are here to listen to atheists talk about whether or not, you know, randomness truly exists or whatever, these things that are sort of speculatory. And even if randomness does truly exist, would that actually affect the whether or not we have will? Because in a way, randomness would suggest you were going to pick something, and then because of something random, you ended up picking the other thing in opposition to what you were going to choose. Is sort of one of the implications there. Anyway, yeah, it's been coming up a lot, and it's sort of getting under my skin because it doesn't matter whether or not we have free will or not. We have experiences of making choices. Whether or not we accept we don't have free will, still our lives are contingent upon living and acting as though we do. And certainly in a society with or without free will, you wouldn't then stop issuing consequences. And in fact, you could even say the consequence issuing is the same result of that same line, the result of that same line of things. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I get why people want to talk about it, because it almost sounds next to a spiritual claim, even though it's not. It's entirely not. It's basically just the claim that there is nothing outside of the material universe and everything follows natural processes, and even things that appear to be random are much more likely to not be random, just that they are beyond our understanding, perhaps to a point that we can't understand. And so, yeah, it's strange. I know it is throwing everybody off. So this is an old episode of The Line. I'm seeing this being talked about in chat. Even though it says atheist, I'm just going to move to the next one because I feel like it is, it's drawing too much attention where people are like, wait, so what is this? It's just on a playlist of, I think, most popular episodes of The Line, because I like to go down to be nostalgic. So here's an old Matt and John Gleason episode. I feel like that helps. Anyway, so The Line is getting a cyber attack. No. It's just an old episode where he appeared from that old thing. Literally, look, there are times I do little annoying things where I'm like, you know, I'll say certain phrases or something that is meant to, at times it's playfully rivalrous. Occasionally you find out there's actually an asshole out there and you're like, this is only a little bit playfully rivalrous between me and this person. It's actually less playful than it might even be coming off. However, in this case, it was simply, I've had that playlist on for a few minutes before, and it was the episode that was on. So there's no thing here. We'll get to calls here in a minute. I've already got calls lining up. Again, if you're a theist, I would especially love to hear from you. 720-619-2288. That is the number, 720-619-2288. There's also a thing in the description. Okay, let me tell you the Patreon thing, and then we'll just get going. Patreon.com/calltheline. We are at 350-ish patrons. As I've mentioned before in the past, 500 patrons is about where, though I'm actually already sort of prematurely doing it, but 500 patrons gives us the resources we need essentially to start getting things out in a podcast form. It might actually become simpler than that because YouTube is launching a podcast feature, which if that has the ability to draw and post in multiple platforms, we'll find out, then that solves a lot of our issues, except for the audio engineer side, which is the thing that we were looking to dedicate some money to be able to get an audio engineer, either to give us guidance on how to do it or to take care of it for us. And lately I've been consulting with people, and there's a few different avenues. So patreon.com/calltheline. If we hit 500 patrons this month, so here's our little thing. And I think this sounds very fun and interesting, and maybe no one else will. If we hit 500 patrons this month, we are going to do a bracket Dillahunty chess tournament. And it's a ridiculous setup. There will be prizes for the top tiers. I'm even considering, like, do we do something for like everybody who wins against Dillahunty at any level? But again, budget's going to matter. But you know, maybe we have like I don't know, like a $5 Starbucks card or something. Only patrons will be able to enter, though we may broadcast it largely. Patreon.com/calltheline. It starts at $5 a month. The way the wacky bracket's going to work is, so if you imagine a bracket with say 64, that's like one of a common bracket. Maybe that's what basketball uses. Maybe they use 32. I don't know. But a bracket with 64, usually you have person A versus person B, person C versus person D, and then A and B, whoever wins there, let's say A wins, and then out of C and D, let's say C wins. A and C would then fight each other. So here's the thing that's going to change a little bit of all that though. In the first level of brackets, everybody who enters will play against Matt. And Matt will be the first to tell you. He'll say he's not very good. That's probably not the actual correct characterization. He's good. And I know he watches Chess Theory and stuff, but I think he doesn't want anyone to mistake him for a chess master or maybe even chess exceptional. But I would say there's clearly some proficiency in what he does. And the fact that if you just play it as often as he does for fun, you're going to get some skill to it. Anyway, so the first, let's say 32 people enter. The first 32 matches will be those 32 people against Matt. Now, some of those, so let's say A, B, where Matt is B, C, D, where Matt is also D. If B versus D is the outcome, then we just, continue on through the bracket until it's not the outcome. And then I want to put some sort of good prize up. It might be like a type of podcasting gear or something for the final winner. My thought is like final four, if any of them aren't Matt, will get a prize. I think there will probably be people who make it at least to the final four. I don't know if Matt's going to win the whole thing, but basically each tier, you've got top 1, that should be a prize. Top 2, that should be a prize. Top 4, that should be a prize. And even top 8, I would say, should probably be a prize. So that's the thing that's coming. If we have 500 patrons, let's say before the month is over, before March is over, which we did 250. We slammed out 200 when I was offering to go bald. We got to 300 in that same 2-week period. So another 150 from where we are now or so is nothing. Patreon.com/calltheline starts at $5 a month. We'll do that tournament. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be fun to set up. I don't know chess almost at all. I actually do know the basic moves they can make. I don't know like how to do. There's some move that I saw someone do not too long ago where their king switches places with their rook for some reason. I don't know any of those advanced moves, but I know the basic piece movements. That's about it. And I don't know. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, signed merch is definitely up there. We are going to be launching merch as well. They will probably be 2-minute matches, I think, is what we were saying. So that's the thing that's going on there. Okay. That's, I think, wraps up everything. I will tell you, the reason we're not going to make this episode super long. I'll probably do calls for about an hour and then super chats at the end. We'll say anything $5 or more this time. I would expect this episode to go under 2 hours because my production to-do list right now is very long. There is lots and lots of stuff to do. I need to finally get the closing credits, which include patron tribute, what do you call that? Patron recognition stuff. I need to get that made. I need to get tutorial videos made for Arden on how, and future producers on how to make clips out of episodes of The Line and where all the resources are. I need to make tutorial stuff for the new volunteer screeners. That's just to begin. And then I also actually need to make a bunch of clips. So I think where I'm at right now is do some calls, especially I would love to get some good ones and go from there. I am kind of interested in this first person who called in. Again, that number is 720-619-2288. Web link is in the description. Because I think I know what the motivation to call in was. But let me talk to Peter in London. Peter, you are on the line. How are you doing?
Hi, Jimmy. I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I will tell you, your mic's a little hot, a little sensitive. This has been something that's been popping up more lately, people with hot mics. So if you can just move the mic a little bit away from your face, usually that solves it.
Well, I'm using headphones, so is that a bit better?
Yes, very much better. No crackles or pops this time. Anyway, go ahead and give us your question.
So basically, you mentioned a couple of times on your shows that you hate the taste of beer, mm-hmm. and that you suspect there's a kind of conspiracy of people pretending that beer is possible.
That's joke. And I completely agree.
But the question is, what are your thoughts about coffee? Because I kind of feel the same way about coffee. So maybe, there's some common thing here.
Interesting. No, unfortunately, there's not. In fact, I don't know if you can see the screen, but I have a self-made latte. I made my own espresso shot, added lactose-free milk to it. I am drinking coffee this very second. Let me take a little sippy sip. I have always loved coffee before I left the church. Before I left Mormonism, I loved the smell of the coffee aisle. I loved Jamocha shakes because someone had told me, it's just coffee flavoring. It has no real coffee in it. So I used to get the Jamocha shake from Arby's all the time. I have always loved the smell and taste of coffee since before. Now, when you leave the church and stuff and you're starting to get input on how, like the first time you try straight up coffee, usually no one tells you if you aren't getting input from other people, especially when you're doing it in rebellion, that like black coffee is pretty harsh. And it is very rare for a person to like black coffee the first time they have it. In fact, I think it's something that develops out of trying lots of different kinds of coffee and sort of tasting that core thing they have all in common, to the point that you're almost falling back to like, what is a good coffee, what makes good coffee, what tastes good coffee. But then also because you like coffee in your life, but at some point you're like, you know what I need less of? Calories in my drinks. Drinking calories is a nightmare. You should try to avoid it as much as possible. That's why I don't drink soda. I also have a sparkling water here. But anyway, no, I love coffee, and frankly have always loved coffee even before I could drink coffee.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That means we can't be friends then.
That's okay.
And about drinks. So, if you actually go into the what's included in Coca-Cola, there's so much sugar there that they actually have to put phosphoric acid in, so that people wouldn't vomit from the sweetness of the drink. So yeah. I totally agree.
From the excess.
Okay, so
yeah.
That was my question, and thanks for being open about being on the spectrum. I myself find it very relatable, and keep doing the Lord's work.
The Lord's work. Thank you, Peter. Have a good one.
And go suck a lemon.
Thank you. Or what was the new thing? Go guzzle cheese. There's a new inside joke for people who watched this last week's episode of the Transatlantic Call-In Show. Go guzzle cheese, or even go guzzle vegan cheese. Wow. So people are still talking about the old episode with, it's an old episode of The Line. Matt used to work at the ACA. Sometimes he'd appear from the ACA on episodes of The Line. There was a time where there was a lot of actual coordination between The Line and the ACA. And that's the entirety of where that comes from. Hey, 720-619-2288, 720-619-2288. That is the number if you want to call. Mostly looking to talk about theism. People have production questions. Honestly, I'd take a question about nearly everything. I will say not every topic will get a long response. Not every topic will get, and there may be topics that come up where I'm like, okay, I don't care. Move on. But we'll see. So we've got a person who's calling in who is a follow-up from previous conflict, who called in about trans issues. And so we'll start by introducing. We've got Arlindo, who I haven't blocked here, despite the fact that I did block on Twitter. But Arlindo from the UK, who wants to call back about our Twitter argument on trans issues, and also involving Aron at this point, which I don't recall seeing Aron in it. So maybe this happened post my blocking Arlindo. Arlindo, what's up?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hello, yeah. So the last time I called the show, when you were on with Aron Ra, and his dog was making a lot of noise.
Oh, I see.
And you completely got my story wrong. If you just let me speak, and then you say your piece, right?
No, wait. Are you trying to come in here? Listen, I will let you speak, but the moment you try to set rules on me on my show, now I'm inclined to interrupt you. However, I will tell you what happened was we had a conversation. I got frustrated and said, I'm getting frustrated, but I'm liking that we're opening a dialogue and seeming like these conversations could be productive. So let's pick it up later. Then you went on to Twitter and you want to talk about somebody misrepresenting somebody. The reason I blocked you was after our conversation when I expressed that there was some hope in this conversation. You went and so bad faith represented the conversation that I was like, what is the point here? If you're going to come on and have a conversation and you're going to present yourself in some way that seems even semi-reasonable, your points weren't reasonable, but like you're listening, and then go straight back to the place where nuance goes to die and be an asshole, there's no point in the ongoing conversation. So I'm going to let you say your piece, but the moment you come in here and tell me how I'm going to run the show, I am actually more inclined to interrupt you. But here, now, say your piece and understand I'll interrupt whenever the fuck I want. We just going silent, Arlindo? Have you muted yourself? It says you're still connected.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, you know, I'm going to, before I ask you how I misrepresented you on Twitter after our conversation, I'm just going to say that I think you fucked up that call because you were accusing me of
I don't care. I don't care if you think I fucked up the call. Go on and make your actual points. I don't care what your assessment is.
I tell you what, I'll call tomorrow with you and Matt on, and I've also got a bone to pick with Matt because he challenged me on Twitter and then he retracted his tweet.
Arlindo, either bring your actual topic now. You can call also tomorrow, but if you want to bring your actual topic now, we can talk about a topic. If you just want to tell me that you think the way I'm running a show is wrong or that I fucked up the call with you, then I don't care. Don't bother calling tomorrow either.
Well, if you don't fuck up, how can I even express myself? If you won't even let me express myself, where, you know, you commended me for having done the research before, and I held my hands up, you know, when I jumped the gun before I even did the research. But after I did the research, you found it laudable. And when I told you that story about Bernice, you know, I'm about to tell you where you fucked up.
I don't care where you think I fucked up, especially with the conversation about Bernice. I've already seen your explanation. Is that the only thing you've called in? Because, by the way, do you know who I'm more compelled by, Arlindo? Wait a second, Arlindo. Do you know what I'm more compelled by? The number of trans people in the comments of that call who were like, yo, Jimmy, thank you for noticing all of the ways that caller didn't realize he was saying things that sound shitty, that basically are harmful to trans people. And by the way, nobody thought you were doing it maliciously. Everybody thought that was a good correction to make because that thing. And whether or not you, cis person, agrees that, oh my God, Arlindo, wait a second. Whether you agree with trans people and the way they prefer to be spoken about, and whether or not you're missing things that are harmful, and whether or not you're using language more responsibly, I care more about their opinions than I care about yours. And whether I fucked up. Now go on, Arlindo.
Okay. Can I just explain this about the story? And then, you know, it's your show. You say whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you, you know, what to do.
Arlindo, I don't want to relitigate whether or not the story was appropriate or not. People can go watch and make their own. My entire thing was, here is language you are using that sounds shitty. You are misgendering this person. You are dead naming this person. And yes, you think it's important to the story, and I'm telling you it isn't. The story loses no value if you don't do those things, and there are alternate phrases and words. What's that?
Right. When I tried to correct you at the time, when you were having a go at me, you just interrupted me, and you said, fucking Arlindo, and all that. So I'll
interrupt you now and say fucking Arlindo. I don't get the point. Arlindo, do you want to discuss trans topics, or did you just want to discuss or whatever? By the way, it doesn't have to be that. Is it just that you want to call in and try and correct me for some reason when you have not been an honest interlocutor? The reason I blocked you on Twitter, I have been honest. No, you were better on the call. I'm not sure you were fine on the call, except for apparently you couldn't take the criticism of this specific thing you were doing. But you were otherwise fine on the call. Then you went to Twitter and went back to the way it had been prior.
It's how you misrepresented my story. That's what I can't take. Because I clearly said that Bernice used to be a manly bouncer before she transitioned. And then you took karaoke host to be the bouncer, and then you clearly said to me, "Oh, so the person in the story that you feel sorry for is the bouncer." Well, when I told the story,
I
love that.
I love that none of this is addressing then what happened with the misgendering and the dead naming, which was the stuff that mattered.
Right,
I don't actually know that I got this thing wrong, because you talked about, I did pick up that you said, wait.
Go back and listen to it before you accuse me as being dishonest.
Arlindo, I don't care. Because if you still misgendered and you still dead name, the actual criticisms had nothing to do with whether or not, when you were speaking about bouncer A, I thought you were speaking about bouncer B, or bouncer B, I thought you were talking about bouncer A. None of that was relative to the thing that you were upset about. If you're just mad that I mixed up which character you were talking about during the story, fine.
You mixed it.
I don't care about that. It doesn't justify the misgendering. Or the, I believe you also used an outdated term, or the dead naming. None of that justifies that.
Okay, all right. Let me just say this to you, right? When I asked you, after you had a go at me, when I asked you how else could I have told the story factually, right? Do you remember what you said to me? You said, "Oh, maybe you could have said that the bouncer dead named so and so," but there was no dead naming, because First off, he was the karaoke host, and the karaoke host didn't even know Bernice, and didn't even know that Bernice had a different name before.
So who dead named? Was it only you?
If you want to call it that, yeah.
Okay,
fine.
then there's the new, fine. You want the updated criticism. You shouldn't have dead named, Arlindo. I'm sorry that I mistook a character in your story for dead naming, which, by the way, Arlindo, wait. By the way, Arlindo, actually is something that's a little bit more understandable, where it's, I'm repeating the story. I've done that in the past. There was an old episode of the Sometimes Show that I got a ton of emails about, where people were upset that I quoted Rush Limbaugh in the use of using the T slur, and I was quoting him. So as a quote, I thought it was appropriate. A lot of people were like, "Hey, listen, when I hear that term, I don't hear just the quote. I hear every way that word's been used against me, thrown at me with vitriol, in some cases, been thrown at me as I'm being kicked on the ground and having my ass kicked." So I took that note and didn't do it again. And now I just say T-slur. That actually would have been more understandable to me. It's funny how you're calling and you're like, "No, but you got it wrong. The person who dead named wasn't the character in the story that I was quoting. I made the choice to dead name for myself." Do you think this makes it sound better, Arlindo?
Okay, hold on a minute. So after our call, and then you blocked me on Twitter. What was the reason for that?
Arlindo, I have hundreds of interactions a week. If you want me to tell you, you said this versus you said this. I just remember you that the reason I blocked you was you went from what seemed like a good faith conversation to you saying I said or did something that was very bad faith representation. As far as the actual things, if I cared, I'd go back and look, and I'm positive whatever you tell me right now was what I did based on our previous interactions will maybe represent pieces of reality with a whole lot missing. But feel free to try.
Okay. I'll tell you what. If you're willing to have me on tomorrow, I can call, and we can also break with Matt, because I've also got a bone to pick with Matt. And it's up to Matt if he wants to take the call. How's that? And we can put this.
It's up to Matt if he wants to take the call. Tomorrow's show is the Sunday show. Is fundamentally is everything you have to talk about trans issues?
No, it's not going to be a trans issue. It's a different thing tomorrow.
So what's the Sunday on the Sunday show? Do not call about trans issues. If you want to call me on a subsequent episode, or you want to call Matt on his show.
I promise you, I won't talk about trans issues. I promise you tomorrow it will be about something else.
Right. Not something else, but it's going to be to the topic of the Sunday show, which is atheism and theism.
Brilliant, because that's exactly what I want to talk to Matt about. I mean, I'm an atheist. It's not going to be about atheism per se, but it's going to be about something you said about debates and about Christopher Hitchens and William Lane Craig.
Go ahead.
I'm telling you now that
throw me out. Put it on me. I'll let Matt. Matt always gets to decide if he wants to take a call or not. By the way, I don't pre-screen or stop any call from him. Sometimes I message him and go, "Do you want us to? You haven't taken this call. Should we waste? Are you planning to take this call, or should we basically have the moderator go and say like, hey, we're probably not going to do this one today?" And by the way, I think he has never once said, "Go ahead and drop a call." But anyway, go on and
Okay.
give me. I want to hear what your challenge is going to be.
Okay. Okay. So, do you want me to say it now and
Yeah.
not wait for tomorrow, or?
Yeah, because
Okay.
Matt, I'm going to be honest. I'm more second host. I'm more co-host the Sunday show. I would say that I often am probably only providing 20 to 30%. So right now, when I've got 100% contribution, I'd like to take a whack at it.
Okay. So basically, there was an argument going on Twitter, and you know, I might have said something to Matt like, "Where's your venom coming from?" And then Matt said, when I was talking to some of his fans, Matt challenged me with a direct tweet. And before I could, and I believe the tweet was, "Where have I expressed fallacies before?" I'm paraphrasing. He can correct me, you know, if you talk to him about this. And when I tried to reply straight away, I don't know if it's possible to retract tweets or if he blocked me before I could reply. But here's my challenge. He said debates are not a win or lose situation. But in the next breath, he oxymoronically stated that he reckons Christopher Hitchens lost to William Lane Craig, a Christian apologist. So I said to his fans, because he left his fans behind to do his dirty work, so I said to his fans, you know, by his own admission, he deems a theist's argument to have been more convincing than a fellow atheist's. So, you know, that's my challenge.
I already know some of the things he's going to address, which is going to be whether or not a person wins a debate or not does not reflect whether or not they have actually demonstrated the truth of their claim. In other words, Arlindo, there are atheists who are dog shit debaters. In fact, I talk shit about them constantly, though often not by name, though I have talked trash about a specific debate channel enough times where I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. Hang on. There are, to say this debate was lost by so-and-so because of this or from this perspective or from something, again, Twitter battles, which seems to be your forte, is where all nuance goes to die. I agree that a lot of debates are lost before they're won, even if they're won, if you present somebody as your equal who doesn't deserve to be there. And I'm not talking about existentially your equal, but as a thinker and as a public figure. So somebody like...
How do you reconcile him saying, him saying that he doesn't see debates as win or lose situations, but then in the next breath, he says that he reckons Christopher Hitchens lost to William Lane Craig. I've seen the debate. There's no way Christopher Hitchens lost that debate.
I know that Christopher Hitchens. So first of all, whether or not you're attached to who won or lost is separate from whether or not someone won or lost. And I imagine, but I'll let Matt speak for himself. I'm not here to tell you what. If I had made those two statements, personally, I would say, here's the... Shut up, Arlindo. You keep interrupting me, man. If I had made those two statements... Arlindo, I am trying to not mute you, right?
I'm all ears.
Okay. I can just mute you when I'm talking and then leave it open, and then I'm not going to notice. But I'm trying to have the polite back and forth. I really am, and I'm going to take a second to get my blood pressure down. You're doing it right now. I'm going to take a second to let my blood pressure get down. I'm going to try and stop, but I'm telling you, don't give me fucking permission. I'm telling you that I would like for us to not speak over each other and try to make this polite. All right?
Here we go.
I'm trying.
Yep.
Arlindo,
Same here.
if I were to make the same statement as Matt, they aren't really win or lose situations, and then say, here is where somebody lost. They aren't really win or lose situation. I would defend as because everybody has their subjective opinion on what warrants a win or a loss. So, for example, if Richard Dawkins, who is a very competent evolutionary biologist, despite the fact that he's a bit shit on some other social issues, but he's a very competent evolutionary biologist, were to debate, let's say, Ken Ham, a prolific creationist, young Earth creationist, I have no doubt that by the who made better points and were more scientifically consistent side, Richard Dawkins would win that engagement. That is not the way in which a lot of people would judge that debate. For example, there are lots of people who think Bill Nye lost to Ken Ham, and people who think that Ken Ham lost to Bill Nye. And it tends to be whichever groups they were set up on. Then there's this other group. Sometimes I'm in this group. I'm not done, Arlindo. Then there's this other group, which is the one I'm in often, and the one I think Matt might be in, but again, he can speak for himself. The one who thinks Bill Nye clearly beat Ken Ham and still lost, because Ken Ham did not deserve the platforming and the sort of, we should treat this with an equality of approach. It's why I hate the channel Jubilee, who is like anti-vaxxers versus doctors and presents it as an equal. And let's see if we can meet in the middle of an extreme position versus science. So the subjective approach to a win or loss, we don't have a really good method of establishing. The only one that comes close is if you poll before and after, and you see if, first of all, this is only if everybody's being honest, you see if minds are changed and if undecideds take a side, and you can say on this metric, we declare the debate won. So for example, the best example of that I've ever seen was Christopher Hitchens and Stephen Fry versus two representatives of the Catholic Church. Incredible debate. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Legendary.
I've seen that. It was one of my favorite ones.
Legendary debate. Then there are other debates. In fact, I remember watching Christopher Hitchens argue with, I don't think it was his brother. I think it was a guy who he started doing a lot of his last ones with, and seeing it and going, wow, that guy definitely lost. And Christopher Hitchens himself afterwards said that he lost and would want to debate again because he could do better next time. Because Christopher Hitchens' own standard of himself is, if it's not a complete blowout and they're not humiliated into submission, I've lost.
I'd love to see a clip of that.
What's that?
I'd love to see a clip of Christopher Hitchens saying that, or, you know.
I can tell you he's sat with his arms crossed. You'll know you have the right one because he sat with his arms crossed. He's sitting next to a man who's a bit overweight, and I think later tried to write a book about how Christopher Hitchens in his last days was secretly, it could be the same guy, it might not be, was secretly like reading scripture with him.
An ordained priest. Yeah, he's actually overweight and he's an ordained priest, and I think he's debated with Dawkins, and he brought mathematics into it to try and prove God. Is that the one?
It could be. I know they're sitting at a table talking about the debate they just had, and Christopher is talking about why he wants to debate again, because basically he didn't sufficiently win enough, and not winning sufficiently in his mind is a loss. So there's my explanation of how I would say the same two things and not be contradictory in my mind, because everything does have nuance and you do have to explain. Are you under is it your belief that Matt will not have a similar explanation, or that any explanation he would had, he'd be making up after the fact to try and cover that he said contradictory things?
I've got no idea, because he just blocks me. And then I had a horde of his minions doing a piss poor job at trying to defend him, and
yeah, I don't sanction that, for the record.
They were all teenagers, and I was just
well, you don't know that,
just annihilating them. Let's put it that way. You can check it on Twitter.
Okay, so here's two things I'm going to say. One, you don't know what the ages of them were, but I'm not going to defend them, because I think people who come to the defense of atheist debaters often are the fucking worst at it, and I'm not impressed with them. Second of all, your own assessment of how well you did, I'm not much concerned for either, on Twitter especially. Arlindo, I highly suggest you.
But if you saw the interaction with those minions, I'm pretty sure you'd be on my side.
I don't think so. Arlindo, the reason why I don't think so is I think the motivation of a lot of them was probably to be annoying and get you to keep responding. And in that way, and I'm not saying that's good, I think that was their motivation. So in that way, they would say, well, all I was trying to do was fucking annoy the shit out of this guy. Clearly I've succeeded. And so I won.
That's probably an accurate, description of them.
I agree, and I think also gets to the core issue of.
I stopped because it's a waste of time, and it's Twitter is a cesspool, and it's like you have to pick your arguments carefully. Not even arguments, it's supposed to be a place where people have decent conversations, and then it just turns into, I'm right, you're wrong, and I like to think I'm the kind of person that gets to the truth, does the research. Sometimes I may jump the gun, but all I want to do is get the facts, sort things out.
We all like to think some
and
things
I've
about
got-
ourselves. Our biases are hard to overcome. I like to think I'll get laid tonight, and yet I cannot imagine a way that's going to happen because the actual
luck with it.
universe goes on whether or not what I think about myself. Arlindo, to get back to the point, because again, I really don't care about talking about the quality of the interactions. What is the method by which we determine a person has won or lost a debate?
Well, the method would be, first, does this person abide by scientific facts? Is what they're saying demonstrable? And also, are they expressing themselves properly?
And Arlindo, here's what I have to say in response to that. That is not the winner of a debate. The winner of a scientific theory.
Tell me.
There is no objective means. This is the point I'm trying to make. The person who gets to be elevated to a scientific theory is the person who succeeds at all of that. Debate is never about who actually got it the most right. It's always about who was the most compelling. That's why I think it sucks that so many people are doing it now, because we don't have, in an ideal world, you would have two people who basically are equals.
The debate format.
What's that?
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, I agree with you. The debate format probably isn't the best, because it is about making the best, not the best argument, trying to be the most convincing, like you said. And then people might, they might find that one of the debaters said something and they think, oh yeah, that's really convincing. It's got to be true. And then,
but
when they
Arlindo,
check it
your
out
standard is
afterwards,
self-defeating.
they find that it's not.
Arlindo, your method is self-defeating. So, for example, if we have a debate that is or let's do a flat earther versus a scientist. No. I'm just trying to make the point. I'm not yelling at you. Your standard of what you think should be what wins debates is, it sounds like, which person actually brings facts. But if that was the case, the debate isn't actually who did the better job. The debate is who was on which side. So if you're saying the winner of the debate is the person who actually did science, and the debate is a scientist versus a non-scientist, you don't even have to have the debate. The scientist wins. And this is why it's self-defeating. That's why I don't think Matt's statement, if it was for the same reasons, was contradictory at all.
No, I agree with you there. And I'm not saying just because someone's got, for example, scientific credentials, it doesn't mean that everything they're going to say, just because they have those credentials, doesn't mean that everything they're going to say is right. They could be frauds. I mean, for example, you can get someone like Jordan Peterson, and he's got, psychology credentials, but everything he could be saying with those credentials could be wrong. He could just be using his credentials to make himself more believable.
I've seen him do that very thing. Totally agree.
Yeah.
In fact, he did that very thing on stage with the giant man's head behind me on the screen right now. It looks like he's talking into my mic a little bit.
Right.
I don't know if you can see the screen, but I've got old episodes of the line on behind me.
Right. Yeah. No, I've in terms of who wins a debate, I completely agree. It's who sounds more convincing.
Which means that there's no
in an ideal world. In an ideal world, people should value the. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
In an ideal world, people should value those of us who care about the truth. And
right, but instead we live in the human world, and it fucking sucks. As far as by the way, who's more compelling, we also don't have an objective meter for that. Who's more compelling is like one of the things most affected by confirmation bias. It's going to be the theists find the theist side most compelling, and the atheists find the atheist side most compelling 90% of the time. And then there might be this little group in the middle that varies. Some of them who are actually getting back to a little bit less self-centered standard. That's maybe 1%. And then probably like 9%. Well, stupid people. Anyway. Yeah. The people who are still undecided the day before the election level people.
Right. So, just before I let you go, if who are you going to vote for in the next election? If Trump runs again, are you going to vote for him?
If Trump runs again, I will vote. Whoever is opposing Trump would be who I vote for. There's very little chance that the opposition will be worse than Trump, including if it's Biden again. I would vote for Biden. Is there a challenge you have to that, or are you just curious? You might be muted again.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Yeah,
I do.
Because if The Rock runs, I think you're going to have probably the strongest president in the world. So is he someone that you'd vote for? Do you know much about his political affiliations? Or
Arlindo, I'd vote for you over Donald Trump.
Oh, thank you very much. I might just move to America.
You can't run. You have to be born here.
Run.
You have to be born here.
True.
To run.
That's true. And I also have to be a theist, or proclaim myself to be a theist.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Bernie got pretty far and never directly said he's an atheist, but when challenged on it and when emails leaked that they were trying to attack him, the DNC, for it, and he was asked about it, he said something along the lines of, I just sort of believe that we're all in this together as a species. We are humans, and it was something like that. He got pretty close. He got pretty close. In fact, he was going to be the natural winner until that sort of midnight DNC gathered together. Unfortunately, totally legitimate strategy, but still felt douchey as all hell, where they all basically dropped out to put what was he in, like 5th place person ahead of Bernie. Sort of blew. Anyway, Arlindo.
He would have been better than Trump.
Last thing I'm going to tell you is Matt has blocked friends before because he's tired. The one he's brought up before is that he is willing to have conversations one-on-one on air and stuff about topics with someone like Cosmic Skeptic back when he was doing the vegan thing. Right. Despite the fact that he blocked him because he was tired.
I remember that.
Yeah, I want to take a blocking from Matt too personally.
I did hear him say,
Yeah.
He's also friends with that guy, that Islamic extremist. He caused trouble here in London, and he's actually friends with him. Can't remember his name, Mohammed Hijab.
Good.
But in my opinion, he's a despicable person. You know Mohammed Hijab?
And you know what, Arlindo? We should be friends with despicable people. We shouldn't platform them. So I've mentioned this before. Like, if some people knew some of the friends that I have in my fucking contact list, some of the people that I like fucking certain Daily Wire hosts even of the past, they would be very upset and feel like it's a betrayal. And yet to me, my deconversion from being radical, my deconversion from Mormonism, and then my deconversion from shitty, even post-Mormonism beliefs, all happened amongst friends who maintained friendships and patience with me despite the level of despicable which I was. And so it's very, very hard to do the guilty by association shit with me when my life and my improvement happened dependent on that. And so all the purity checkers out there who, I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm good. I hope that Matt has several despicable friends. One, because I see how Matt is willing to argue with the friends he loves, like myself. And if someone's maintaining a friendship with Matt, they're not hearing what he has to what he thinks about them. Last words, Orlando, and then I'm going to move on.
Let's see. Would you be friends with Ben Shapiro?
Yes. Yes. And if I were publicly friends with Ben Shapiro, if it was publicly known I was friends with Ben Shapiro, I would take much greater attempts to constantly contrast the two of us. But I would befriend the entire Shapiro-ass family because I think that benefits society. I think ultimately there will be things that improve in general about all of them by extension of my friendship, even if they are subtle and small. But yes, I would.
Okay, yeah, no, that's very admirable.
Thanks.
Okay, Jimmy, I think we've been able to put this to bed. So I think, Can I tell you, go fuck yourself.
All right, Arlindo, you too, buddy.
All right, see you.
For the record, that's a compliment on this channel. If anybody's missed out, I'm pretty uncomfortable with compliments, but I can take a go fuck yourself. Or recently, we've been saying go guzzle vegan cheese, which is not it's in no way in that regard shitting on vegans. It was because we're doing a vegan cheese challenge. I don't even think there are that many. There are very few vegans who will defend that vegan cheese is good. I don't mind. Obviously, they're still going to say, like, doesn't matter if there's good vegan cheese. They're still opposed to dairy, which is fine. Whether or not the dairy industry is cruel doesn't make vegan cheese good or not. It makes us say. But anyway, now that I've invoked veganism, I'll take a call from someone I remember who was not too happy with the way I roasted him when he came on John's show. Unless it was a different Nick. Nick in Ohio, you are on the line.
Same Nick.
Same Nick.
And
it's all good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's no problem. I mean, I totally understand that you weren't interested in having that conversation at that time. So
yeah, and the rant was fun and funny.
Yeah, I'll say as far as vegan cheeses go, I like one. So I'm in the United States, so like there's one that's called. It just says Chow on it, like CHAO. It comes in slices. And the only it tastes really good. The only problem is that it feels like it has like a really high melting temperature. So if you try to make grilled cheese with it, your like bread will be burnt, and the cheese will still be cold for some reason. But that's a good one.
Hey Nick, how long has it been since you've had real cheese?
I went vegan around the time. Let's see here. It was when the first Adam Driver Star Wars came out. I just remember it was like that winter. It was like probably like 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know, what was that, like 2015? I don't know.
Okay. So I just have to tell you, your opinion on which cheeses taste good means very little to me, but I hope you keep eating the cheeses that you like.
Well, I was vegetarian for quite some time before that, and there's sort of a joke on Reddit vegan circles that vegetarians just eat straight blocks of cheese and are cheese connoisseurs. So I don't know if that helps.
It doesn't, but whatever. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, Nick, go ahead and lay down what you wanted to, the point you want to make, which I believe is about veganism.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I should say that, I guess just in general, I think that we should care about veganism, like even if you're an atheist, because, so I'll just go ahead and say some things. I think that that eating meat is essentially, it's a majority position that seems to be uncritically accepted.
Are you, so is it that you're calling to compel me to be a vegan, or you just want to share vegan points for our audience, for people who might be considering veganism?
Well, I guess I wanted to call in because I thought, I guess just that we should care about it, because I think that it's essentially like atheism, rejection of unfalsifiable assertions.
Yeah, I know you called in and already got owned when you tried to create an equivalency there, and it's obviously like, it sounds like you did not take the notes, because it was a pretty good debunking of that actual point, that these are just that these are somehow equivalent. For example, at their core, omnivorism is not a learned behavior. In fact, it's the first thing you do. Even though you wouldn't describe it as non-vegan, drinking milk is still omnivorous from your mother. And so as far as religion goes, the proposition of theism and atheism doesn't come up unless it's brought up by somebody. And so it's hey, here's a claim. It is entirely learned behavior, as opposed to the natural inclination toward eating meat, because we are, in fact, as humans, omnivores. That doesn't mean that that's a good enough argument to not stop eating meat. But it is still a fact that humans are omnivores.
Sure, and I mean, I guess theists also make appeals to nature, and also will make arguments that evolution is prescriptive. And I just think that we can, obviously we could compare anything. We could compare a volcano to a toaster, and that's completely asinine. The main point is just that we learn
so we should only do
lessons
so responsibly, and that's my argument, is that you're not doing so responsibly when you're saying that that you're acting like there's an equivalence there. Not remotely responsibly.
Yeah, I guess it's right. Yeah, so it's not to say that there's an equivalence in that sense. It's just that we learn. We can just take the lessons that we apply from. If somebody just, for instance, arbitrarily asserts, an unfalsifiable conclusion, atheists can very easily see the problems with that when we talk about it in terms of epistemology, and yet seem to struggle when we talk about those same claims in terms of morality.
No, I don't think we struggle. I think that my problem with vegans, not veganism, I share Matt's position. Veganism is morally virtuous. It's not a moral obligation. However, I do think that as technology evolves and alternatives become more and more, the level to which it might be obligatory versus virtuous grows. I think that the thing I get the most annoyed with on vegans are there are many ways in which my life causes less suffering than many of their lives do to animals. But the specific one of eating, which death does not necessitate suffering. In fact, death, if anything, would be the ending of the potential of suffering. You could call it a suffering win. That it is only assessed from this, are you doing this specific dietary thing that we can purity check you on and basically say you're not good enough if you do this. Then you get its most extreme representatives recently not even being able to adhere to it, because it turns out that if you do have certain health issues, there aren't non-vegan ways to viably address them, despite all of the assertions, and despite that this is happening to the people who would have been the most, not just inclined, but like have to make sure that they exhaust all other possibilities before changing and then pick their life over. And frankly, I'm unimpressed. I can't stand Piers Morgan 99%. In fact, I can't even stand Piers Morgan when he's right. But he did popularize the whole thing of, I don't really want to fucking hear from a goddamn vegan who eats avocados that my life is immoral because of my non-vegan things, because eating avocados is a non-vegan action in and of itself. And so the ways in which you draw these lines are entirely arbitrary. I feel entirely content that I have reduced my mammal intake by a lot, because those are the places where I went, okay, anything that is smarter than the animals we have social contracts with because of our domestication and over the years, anything that is smarter than that, we should pretty much extend those same social contracts of we'll look out for your well-being. However, that's where I have personally come to, and I'm not going to throw it at other people. And the fact that these little things like that, the fact that I don't eat avocados and I don't eat mammals, some I still, it happens from time to time. But I've reduced my mammal intake a lot. Doesn't matter. Veganism, I don't care. Like, I love lots and lots of vegans. The people you ever see Matt and I arguing back against aren't people who have been reasonable about it, and the people who are like, cool, it is good to hear that you've done that, and it's good to hear that you care about your climate footprint or your carbon footprint. It's awesome that you're doing these things that, again, I actually think I would argue that my net animal suffering animal suffering cause is less than the average vegan's, because I do go out of my way to try and reduce my carbon footprint, and I do pay for things to offset when I can't help it. And so I don't know what argument you want to call in with. If you are eating vegan, I commend you. Keep eating vegan. You're doing a morally virtuous thing. I like that you do that. If you're an asshole on the internet, I don't care what topic you're an asshole on the internet about. As I just said, I don't care that Piers Morgan was right about avocados. I hate that he's the one who popularized that information, because it would be better coming out of anybody else. Being right isn't the only thing I give about as far as whether a person sucks or not.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I was concerned that that might be a little bit of a gish gallop, but I think that was the entire horse race. There's quite a few arguments there to unpack. It probably won't surprise you that there are responses for all of those, and that I guess I don't know which one you wanted to start with.
Frankly, I just sort of went on the rant that I felt. I don't consider us in debate right now, Nick. I consider us in conversation. Sure. So whether or not it's a Gish Gallop or not, I don't know. But you're welcome to take the one you want. But at the end of the day, the standard for a good vegan argument is extremely low amongst the people that annoy me. In fact, the most common thing I ever see in response to stuff is, this is a bad argument, go do it with, and it used to be Cosmic Skeptic. I don't know who it is now, but that was our most common comment. Just, this is a bad argument. You should go talk to so-and-so. It's never, hey, here's the flaws in this argument and why what we are asserting as flaws actually matter. So I don't care if you want to take one or not. You can take one as much as you like, because at the end of the day, I think anybody who is thinking about it and doing their best is also in an equally morally virtuous position as veganism.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm interested to hear, because like listening to what you say, like I obviously am interested in always crafting the best possible arguments and finding the best possible counter arguments, and certainly your arguments against veganism are significantly stronger than most people that I seem to run across. Which is
funny, because I don't consider mine against veganism. I consider mine against imposition of diet, like imposition of will. If I could be a happy vegan tomorrow, I probably would be, on top of everything else I do, because it's not as though everything that you do is ever enough. So I don't even consider myself arguing against veganism. I consider myself arguing against, forgive me, Nick, people who call in on topics that have nothing to do with veganism. Not today. Today you are invited to bring it. But people who call in on topics that aren't about veganism and go, boy, I can make that level of extreme where it's everything is about this and I am the most morally superior, because that's what it feels like. Honestly, when you hear these people talking, it is this broadcast of their moral superiority to everybody else and their inability to come around to their diet. Nick, I'll ask you this. When the day comes that lab-grown meat has a smaller footprint than currently vegan food, would you agree that it will then become more morally virtuous to pack your protein with lab-grown meat than farmed proteins, I mean?
Yeah, so this is sort of an interesting question, because so when we look at, like, for instance, like Consumer Reports did a study.
All right, Nick, let's just start with yes or no. If the footprint of protein in lab-grown meat is smaller than the footprint, and I'm talking physical footprint, literally, like physical space, and carbon footprint, when and environmental impact, when those three things become more environmentally friendly than, for example, and have a lesser footprint than, for example, soybean-based protein, do you agree that it will at that point be morally virtuous? And to a vegan who considers it obligatory, a vegan would be obligated to switch to those smaller footprint proteins, even if they are disgusted by meat, including lab-grown, because the footprint is smaller, less animals will die, and less carbon will be released into the atmosphere.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really motivated too much by the environmental part. If you're saying that fewer animals die, then yes, but that seems unlikely, given that thermodynamics dictates the amount of energy going into a system is going to be more than the amount that you get out. So it would seem unlikely.
Wait, so to be clear, you think that a factory, which, let's say it's solar powered factory which generates lab grown meat, does not have the potential to kill less animals than a soybean farm?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that you could come up with a bunch of strategies. There's all kinds of, I mean, I guess if we want to talk about the year 3000, of any kind of.
No, I'm talking about the year 2050, bud. I'm talking about in our lifetime, this is an inevitability. And you seem to be totally unaware of it and not willing to just answer a yes or no question, even if you want to take it as hypothetical. Nick, hypothetically, I've got two spaces.
Sure.
It takes.
Sure, yeah, hypothetically, sure.
So even if you are good, because it's what's coming, even if you are disgusted by a meat heavy diet and the concept of meat and lab grown meat and that this is muscle tissue, but it hasn't killed an animal to obtain it, you will still, if you are going to intake protein, it would be upon you to reject soy-based protein that kills more animals and to instead eat the thing that disgusts you. That would be morally consistent for you, correct, Nick?
Yeah.
Cool. At least you're pretty. I don't believe you, but I'm going to give you. It's okay. Let me say this. I am compelled to not believe you. I think that your arbitrary lines will move. I will give you the benefit of the doubt and say, good, your extremism is at least consistent. I have a feeling when that day comes in our lifetime, it's on its way. When that day comes, I think there's going to be a whole new series of like, well, sure, but like rodent life, their brains are so small that maybe they're more in the insect camp, even though many insects, this whole sentientism bullshit, when you have many insects that have very complex nervous systems and social structures, they clearly show that at the level of some animals, some level of sentience. You've got this amongst a lot of arachnids, you got it amongst a lot of things like mantises and the like. Even all that aside, I have a feeling the lines will shift. But Nick, during that time, call in and tell me you didn't change a thing. That the day that soybeans became more a danger to net animal life, sentient animal life, you started eating foods which disgusted you that had a lower footprint. I want to hear that. I want you to call in on that day. If I'm still doing call-in shows, don't forgive me if I'm not still doing them in 2050. I hope I will have retired to some place I could just masturbate all the time.
Sure. I mean, I guess if this is the hypothetical universe, but again, I consider that pretty unlikely and
ridiculous that you find it unlikely, but fine. Are you? Do you track
specifically the scenario that you're talking about that it has a lower footprint? And I mean, for me at least, lab-grown meat is sort of an annoying thing because it just seems like a super easy way. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily what you're doing, but a lot of people, it just seems like a very easy way to just say, well, listen, I know that like I don't have any good arguments for stabbing animals in the throat, but we're going to deflect that off until, I can't do anything about that until lab-grown meat is a thing. And I know that I go to McDonald's and get...
Is what's evil about stabbing an animal in the throat the suffering it causes, or the fact that you're killing it, or the fact that like you've stabbed it in the throat? What is the thing specifically that's evil about stabbing an animal in the throat?
I would say that it's that you basically just harm the well-being of conscious being unnecessarily. By
removing its participation in the conscious world, or what specifically is the... And is consciousness your line, by the way?
Second half of the...
Is consciousness your line, by the way?
Well, I guess, people will argue about exactly what it is that is the...
yeah, no shit. There has not been a single vegan who brings this consciousness line that has ever given a working definition of consciousness that isn't also self-defeating. You don't know what is and isn't consciousness. The fact that people think ants aren't conscious but can't quite articulate why, when it's clearly this human egocentric because I so can't establish what's different about them. But then when you start adding these other elements, lots of creatures which get killed by the farming industry all the time start to reappear in what could be conscious. It's like when I love, this is the specific conversation where it's like the audacity of you to bring consciousness into this when it goes as well as when a gender critical person calls in and tries to give a definitive definition of a woman that doesn't exclude many cis women, or a definitive definition of gender that doesn't exclude many people, or where they can't do it. I think it's hilarious for vegans to ever bring up consciousness, honestly.
I guess I'm sorry. Like, so why is that hilarious?
Because okay, give me a definition of consciousness that excludes everything. Give me a definition of consciousness that everything which currently your vegan diet doesn't kill. Well,
yeah, I mean, if you order, even if, like, let's say, you ordered something from some place and there's some factory where, some number of people die in factories a year. Sure.
Sure. I like that you're going with that extreme. I'm asking you for a definition of consciousness, which you're not going toward, that wouldn't happen if you literally went and picked a tomato from your neighbor's farm that you were invited to be there, and that nothing which you would deem consciousness is at high risk or just guaranteed, not even high consciousness, just meets the line of consciousness, isn't guaranteed to die for that tomato to exist.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is that I think that's an irrelevant point, because we feed half of the human edible food to animals, and we get very little juice out of that squeeze.
If you are talking about the well-being of conscious animals and that something is evil because you've ended the consciousness, you then have to apply that across the board, which is why I asked you for a definition of consciousness, which you still have yet to give. And by the way, the reason why I think you have yet to give is because there aren't good definitions of consciousness. The most consistent definition of consciousness is awake. We don't know what consciousness is. It might be an illusion, and it's why it's, again, our own human arrogance that makes us think it exists. We feel a sense of self-importance, and that might be the extent of what our experience of consciousness is, which then excludes many animals from having it because they don't have those faculties in their brain.
Sure. Yeah. But there is definitely, if you just consider, an ant, that yes, there's some sort of consciousness, but the sort of, peaks and troughs of the sort of moral landscape of their well-being is a much narrower band than something like
how do you know that?
Dog
according to what definition?
Like a human.
According to what definition of consciousness? Because I'm telling you, you're doing the same thing. By the way, that I do, but you're using it as justification. You are using a human-based, your ability to perceive the self-importance of your consciousness versus what you are imagining the mental experience of an ant to be like, because you have no clue. So give me a definition of consciousness and let's put it to bed. Make me a vegan, baby.
Yeah, so consciousness is actually sort of interesting. Yeah, so it would be, based upon my understanding of neurology, it would be the interconnectedness of the neurons and the way in which signals propagate across neural networks. So there's sort of a lot of really interesting things you can see, like, for instance, when you go to sleep, a lot of signals kind of stay localized, so things will fire, but parts of your brain aren't necessarily talking to each other. That seems like that's more of a neurological question than an ethical one.
I'm just sorry that you invoked it then. If you feel inadequately able to answer the question, which, by the way, the definition you just gave is certainly amongst what people would discuss, not a definitive definition, and suddenly computers can become conscious, because you can definitely devise neural networks that rest and all sorts of shit, and we're getting even closer and closer. By the way, I may not disagree. If consciousness exists, computers may have been conscious for a while. I'm not convinced consciousness isn't anything but an illusion. And to tell you the truth, I even think consciousness might be entirely, our insistence of consciousness might be entirely dependent on ego and our own ego to live, because you actually notice, for example, your description of killing something, that people whose ego, they are missing it from their brain because of some sort of injury or something, because you actually need ego to survive, don't feel an attachment to being alive. By the way, it's not always head injury. Sometimes it's severe depression, and it's what causes suicide. And so those individuals would argue very much that removing their consciousness is an act of harm. And in fact, in many cases, for people who are very ill, think that it's actually an act of mercy. So you can't actually say that consciousness in that regard determines whether or not killing something is an act of good or evil. That it may be, consciousness is the illusion of all of our factories, all of our cognitive factories running through our ego. And I suspect it is, by the way, but it doesn't matter what I suspect because I can't prove it. And I wish you would admit you can't prove it and that your lines are arbitrary based on where you feel things are. And arbitrary doesn't mean that they're not morally virtuous. You can still defend some of those arbitrary lines. I arbitrarily would like to put the line at mammals. I may change it later. Here's why I put it here. And by the way, might be able to compel other people to do that, thereby in an overarching way, reducing this level of harm that you and I agree is probably harmful. But that's not enough. That's not enough. And you got to throw these terms out about ending the well-being of a conscious individual when we can't actually say that it is harmful to end on the basis of consciousness, well-being, that killing is the ending of their well-being, as I've just demonstrated with explaining to you the flaw in your consciousness argument. Would you like to try a different one?
Well, the truth is that any such discussion is actually a little bit pointless, because most carnists will, carnist being someone who is not vegan.
I know, a way to marginalize normalcy. Go on.
Well, it's because veganism is sort of a negative, in the same way that atheism is. It's a non-stamp collecting type thing. But most non-vegans, I guess, if you're offended by the term,
didn't say I was offended by the term. It's just a silly term. It's a silly term, and to compare them was also silly, because atheism is stigmatized beyond how an atheist acts. Atheists are met with "you're worthy and going to hell," regardless of if they are a well-participating member of society or not, and whether or not they are going out there proselytizing or broadcasting. Both are met. It is very rare. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, because you can't say that in a world with 7 billion people. Somewhere everything exists, or is it 8 billion now? But it is very rare that a vegan that's just living their life and not trying to morally talk down to everybody they see as their ethical inferior is met with the same thing. Most of the time when somebody says, like, when I'm asking someone, hey, we're going to this restaurant, who just says, are there vegan options? I just check, because they're dietary. If the same thing as somebody had said, are there lactose free, whatever, these are your dietary restrictions, whatever your motivations for them are yours. I don't give a fuck. So to compare the two is ridiculous.
Sure. Well, that's a great discussion. But the point that I was trying to make, just to go back, unless you want me to respond specifically to that, is that most non-vegans already agree with me in terms of things like, could I take a dog and chain it in my basement and beat it with a rubber hose for my entertainment? And so all I'm saying is that I would just eliminate the special pleading from that argument. And so to say that, well, we can't do it with a dog, or like, for instance, there's a story on, these people who, there's a baby dolphin that was swimming too close to shore, and, the beachgoers took it out of the water and killed it in an attempt to get selfies with it. And of course, news articles that, are any kind of message board, are calling for heads to roll at the very least, or giant meteors at the best, at the most. So already people agree with me on so many things, and people will say that factory farming is wrong. So you're saying that certain animals, don't, that they basically, you're just qualifying in, like, on arbitrary basis.
Yep, and so are you. Because here's the thing. I actually started doing other stuff while you were saying that, because I knew I didn't need my full mental energy to point out what's wrong with the argument you were just making. It is such a stupid argument to go, these things that if they happen directly in front of you, you would recognize are wrong, because if you didn't, your brain's empathy factors would clearly be fucked up. And by the way, there are individuals who are born without those factors who don't recognize why they're wrong. And yes, we still advocate for when we are exposed to them, that we shouldn't do those things and we should punish those people. But at the end of the day, my assertion to you, Nick, is your lifestyle causes the level of suffering in a dog in a basement to other creatures and animals, and probably people, in ways that you don't even bother to check if it's happening. I remember I was having this conversation with a vegan friend recently who was trying to tell me off for things I had been doing in my life. And I'm literally talking to them. I'm like, is that 7 Amazon packages over there in the corner right now? And you want to talk to me about the ethical impacts of my life versus yours? Yes, the lines are arbitrary. We do the best with what we are presented with. And clearly, all of us, including yourself, Nick, who is currently consuming electricity, which harms the environment, to make this call in the first place, Clearly, there are points where we go to exist in this world and go on. I have to accept some level that I am participating in shitty systems. But what is virtuous is to try and reduce my impact on those as much as I can. Perfection is impossible to achieve. And by the way, I may not even be doing better than other people in other categories, but I have found this group of people that I can purity check others around based on whether or not they are adhering to the same diet as me. I don't give a fuck about veganism or vegans in a negative way. I'm saying every person who's a vegan, I don't feel the need to argue with. In fact, not even most. Where I do feel that with theists, even progressive ones, I want to debate every theist I come across. But vegans, I don't, because there is a difference in the people who are recognizing those arbitrary lines and just happy to meet anybody who's doing their best, and the people who make it their moral imperative to go out and purity check other people in a way that is so undigestible. I want to make a vegan joke here. You'd probably think it was like eating blue steak if you're a vegan. I don't know, some joke there. But it is undigestible and it doesn't help. And you could actually, the people who have convinced me to reevaluate my life, who were vegans and my impact on the environment and my impact on suffering, were again, people who met me where I am. We shared some things. And then when I wanted to make some changes, didn't do a big like grandstanding of like, haha, now you're seeing. And what about I don't even know what the point of taking this call was, because we weren't even talking about really at the end of the day, the topic is your arbitrary lines you think are better than mine, and you can't even demonstrate them or give definitions that are definitive and non-exclusionary to things that you eat. You can't give definitions of basic terms that your argument depends on. So go ahead and take your last, just make your last point and then let's fucking move on.
Well, the problem though with that argument is that essentially quantitatively they're so different from each other that you reduce your impact by orders of magnitude by simply not eating meat. And so that's the argument. We take half our food that's human edible and we feed it to animals. And so it's so quantitatively different as to be completely qualitatively
If even
different.
10% of the vegans I've ever met could actually describe what the extension of the harm of the food they eat is, I would believe you. And yet I don't think I've met one who has done much research into what the vegan foods they are eating.
Yeah.
No, there are lots of very holy shit, propaganda from again, not veganism at large, but the vegan extremists and the flaws in the methods in which they represent it, like how many vegans believe in that camp that if everyone went vegan tomorrow, it would solve climate change when that is demonstrably untrue. That shit is insane to me. Sorry, I said you should make the last, and then I let myself hear a word and I didn't want to fucking let it go. Nick, give me a tweet length final thing. Just tell me I'm a disgusting carnivore who should kill myself instead of continuing to contribute to climate change, because actually that would be the most morally virtuous thing I could do, because my carbon footprint is inevitably harming the planet, even if I put efforts into countering it. Or whatever else you like.
Well, I guess you've made a lot of arguments, and rest assured that they are all easily debunkable, and there are lots of websites out there.
Weird,
like
you didn't
the Talk
debunk
Origins
any
Archive,
of them.
You did do most of the talking.
Yeah, and because every time you were given a chance to debunk, you garbled out some shit, like the consciousness thing. These are all easily debunked. All right, call back next time, Nick, that I'm doing Cus I Wanna, and give me an easy to debunk one.
Okay.
Don't say consciousness. You won't have a good time. And I'm giving you
special pleading.
Go watch. Oh my God, fuck off. You don't know what these fucking terms mean. Right. You were awful at this, Nick. Go watch back the call, pick any of the arguments. You can do all the preparation you need. I won't do any. I'll still just come as myself. And you're still going to lose because you don't even know the fallacies that you are trying to say, to claim. Call in and beat me at one of the arguments. Again, over a topic I don't give a fuck about or prepare for, and yet, given the opportunity, you said something fallacious and awful every time we tried. Good luck, Nick.
Fair enough.
Later. Jesus fucking Christ. It's like you're arguing with somebody about evolution versus creationism, and they first start off with the, okay, how come a monkey, you've never seen a monkey give birth to a human, and then you point out the problem with the argument they're already going on, like, well, I didn't get to finish my ground up argument that was bad. The end of that argument was going to make it all work, and you were going to see how the monkey giving birth to and this motherfucker wants to come up with a word like consciousness that isn't exclusionary of all the things he eats, doesn't manage to do it. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus. Jesus. Oh, I like this. I didn't know Jimmy was this dishonest and anti-science. Clearly that's what happened. That's why you said that and not your point, because it's clearly not the case that your position isn't as defensible. It just reminds me of fucking Mormons when they get into elders quorum and they're like, and then this person said, and I was like, fact, blah, blah, blah. And I bore my testimony and everybody clapped, and they make such bad arguments. And despite the fact that you can literally tell them how to beat you, they never take it up because they actually can't. If you tell, like, by the way, this would do it, this would do it, this would do it. And nothing accounts for, none of their shit accounts for. They're not ready to argue with people who are like, yeah, veganism's a good thing to do. If you can do it, do it. Fucking yeah. And if you can't do it, still assess as best you can within your limits, assess what your impact on the world is and reduce it. Reduce your negative impact. Hilarious. Matt did not, to the person asking where Matt's debate today was, Matt did not do a debate today. What are we at? Oh, Jesus Christ. It's been an hour and a half. I did not expect that. I'm going to cap calls, but I have at least one Theist call. I didn't see what the other two were. Ooh, excuse me. Little gassy. Let's see. This is an interesting. All right, I'm going to take these in order. The next call is an atheist call, but I know it's one that I disagree with a lot of people on. And so let's talk. Jara in New York, pronouns they. I only have they listed, but I assume that means they, them. Jara in New York, you are on the line.
Hey, sup? How's my audio?
It sounds good. I like it.
Beautiful. Yeah, loved you going off on veganism. Loved the call screener. Everything's great today.
I didn't love going off
you
on
disagree.
veganism.
You don't even know what I'm saying. Oh, well, I did.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying I disagree with you. I said I disagree with a lot of people on this topic. So present the topic and then, yeah, we'll go for it.
Okay, sure thing. Even listening to the Transatlantic yesterday, let me just break it down because I am excited. Love your show. Big ups.
Tight.
Fuck you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
So the way your call screener really made me break it down. So once again, big ups. Sorry, on the move.
Yeah, no worries.
Wasn't really expecting it. Sounded Theist was in front of me. I was like, Theist, get priorities.
No. But I like this topic. But yeah, if you can just present either the question or the argument or whatever, we'll try and make this. If you're saying you'd rather me come back to you, you want a minute to gather stuff, we can do that too. I can put you back in the queue and then come back to
right now. Sorry.
Okay. Cool.
So, democracy good, violence bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's flatline right there.
Okay, and to the screener, it was the question you have in here is, when is it okay to punch a Nazi?
Right, Nazi is the worst of the worst because they, neo-Nazis especially, just like, yes, we are against everything good in the world.
Yeah.
They ascribe to that philosophy. They work for that. They're even funded to do that.
Yes, though you also have to account for the fact that not everybody who calls themselves a Nazi even knows the definition of their own term. So, for example, there are people who call themselves Nazis that if that level of Nazi has arrived on my street and they're marching toward me, I'm going to prepare for a physical altercation because I assume they're there to do something to me. Doesn't mean I would necessarily initiate the physical altercation. And so I think the answer with violence is the time to be violent ever is when there's no other choice but to be violent. And some things which are violence may not traditionally be called violence. The time to punch somebody is when you are doing so to prevent additional harm to you or somebody else. That does not mean that as a humanist or whatever philosophically you want to line me up with, that I don't fail at times. I recognize that it is inconsistent with my morality to enjoy watching Richard Spencer get punched for being a Nazi. And yet, as an imperfect human being, did I watch it on repeat? I did. I did watch it on repeat. And did I laugh and smile? There you go. Yes. But would I morally defend it? No, because I don't believe the answer to fascism is acting like a fascist.
Really?
Correct.
Okay. That is a bold stance to take, and I commend you for that. That is.
I mean, what's the alternative? Richard Spencer being punched wasn't to end his rhetoric. He then continued. He then also used it as a victim thing. That wasn't what led to his downfall.
True.
If we've justified violence against something, like we're at war with something, whether literally or in some other sense, the moment that it becomes acceptable wouldn't just be at the moment of punching. It would be the moment of remove this person from society, whatever that looks like. In some types of war, that means killing people. In some types of war, it's prison. Punching a person on the street who's talking and giving an interview, in this case, backfired in a lot of ways, except for that it gave me such an enjoyable gift to watch on repeat.
But, sorry, I wanted to interrupt you earlier, but you
no worries.
So eloquently put your thoughts. So they will claim victim no matter whatever. Mm-hmm. If there's nothing going on, they will say this is happening. They are the cause enemy, and they will act on that. They do act on that, on bold-faced lies.
Yeah, I agree.
And
that's not the only reason not to do it, by the way.
That.
Yes.
Of course.
Yep.
But it's just rhetoric doesn't always work. Legislation is a moneyed thing, and liberalism in general is not exactly, I don't even know, because it is popular, but it's just not, doesn't have the backing of oil barons and such. I don't know.
Sure. I guess I don't know where you're wanting me to take it with it.
But I do appreciate your opinion. Exactly. Yeah. I this was a very, you really put your thoughts eloquently. You really did.
Well, thank you, Jara.
And I just, something for me to chew on. I've been chewing on it because I just interact with the worst of the worst being online.
Sure.
And, yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just, sorry, I wanted to chew your ear off or get my ear chewed off.
No. I wasn't treating you as argumentative. I was responding knowing there will be people who are like, if he misses even a single point of nuance, I'm going to pop in there. And I probably have. There's still going to be people who say very silly things about my take on whether or not I enjoyed watching Richard Spencer get punched on the street while giving an interview. Does not mean that I justify that action. But it also doesn't mean that I don't think there isn't a time that's appropriate to meet what are inherently violent movements with types of violence. But we weren't there.
It has to come to your door in your neighborhood.
No, I mean, look, there's more than that, though. There's, I think that it was appropriate to remove the insurrectionists from January 6th from society. And certainly imprisonment is a type of very violent action. It's a type of violence.
Can I ask you something? A little bit more pointed. Because I recognize that people can be changed over time. But when do you stop a Nazi when he says, I'm a Nazi, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, or when he's in government and legislating and the power? When should you have stopped him? When do you stop him?
What is when you say when should I have stopped them, what are you saying the word? I hate to do what's the definition of, but are you asking when should I have spoken out against them, or when should I physically try to stop somebody with force?
Question. That is a very good question. Because you could say it all you want, man. That doesn't mean that they're not going to stop you. You know, Fred Hampton died in his sleep. Quotation marks around sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I just... once they're so far, you know...
Jara, I mean, clearly I think that the solution based on what I'm doing is to still beat ideas with ideas wherever possible and to not cross certain lines first. But sometimes lines are crossed first. So I don't favor, you know, sending the police to arrest everybody who attends a Richard Spencer speech. That's not the way I would battle it. The moment those speeches become not...
so little.
The moment those speeches become something more
it feels
than...
like it's so little. Once you're in the grocery store with them shooting up because it's a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
Oh, then you can act?
If somebody's shooting up a grocery store, of course I'm going to try and shoot them. What do you mean?
No shit. You're not going to do something before that, though.
What?
Every single
Jara,
line.
Wait, Jara.
Doing their action based on their rhetoric.
Nobody has said do nothing before any extremist action. Clearly, lots of things.
Lauren Boebert is.
Jara, I don't think you're listening.
Empowered, dude.
Jara, are you listening to me?
Of course I am.
It doesn't feel like it because it feels like you're now jumping into strawman territory, and it sounds like you're trying to make a point. I don't know what you think the alternative is, as far as do we march? This is Jara. Look, go look at my tweets or go look at my. I don't know how much of my stuff you're aware of. I'm the guy who says guns are terrible, and if you're trans, you should go buy one. Guns are terrible, and if you're a woman, you should go buy one. Because at a certain point, the balance is we're not putting guns back in the gun box. They're not going away. The ban's not going to happen. In America, it's not going to happen. And there's currently a group of people who has lots of them who at the end of the day do not fear certain lines, because if we really push them and say you just have to treat others with respect, they're just going to use those guns. And they don't anticipate that there's guns on the other side. What?
And we can't treat them with respect. I know it sounds terrible. I've worked with the worst of the worst. Nazis, black supremacists. I sound like them.
I've never suggested treating
that I'm spouting this. I'm sorry.
I've never recommended treating Nazis with respect, for the record. I mean, there are certain specific human rights, like if you arrest a Nazi for doing something they shouldn't have done, it doesn't mean we now get to torture them, which is one of those things that I don't agree with a lot of people on, where it's if somebody is on the opposite side of me on an issue, then everything that happens to them that is bad is actually good, and any sort of response would be warranted. To say you shouldn't torture a Nazi means that you're somehow defending Nazism, though usually not represented with those exact terms. Clearly there are lines. I don't think we have met the basically Civil War line yet. Some people do. Some people do believe that it's time to start going out and doing extreme things. I don't think so. I don't think that this is still unwinnable. And also, I think about the repercussions of if we do go there, because they are not... It feels like a lot of people are so detached from what's happened in history that they really don't consider the repercussions. And the fact that most of us who are the loudest about these issues will not survive a physical altercation, a type of war, even if on the other side we win. And it's okay for a person to go, wow, that's not a consequence I want to embrace unless we have no other choice. I would like to exhaust all other possibilities where I survive and live and before and we win, before we go to, all right, let's go. And as soon as the fucking, any type of war starts, I'm dead within 2 months. People have already tried to kill me in the past, right? I moved because of it once since this YouTube channel. And I recognize that. So there are lots of reasons to want to exhaust all possibilities, if there are reasonable possibilities otherwise, before jumping to anything physical.
Okay, I can interject.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say I agree with you on everything.
Sure.
Everything. And I appreciate the discussion that you had with me.
Cool.
It really, another perspective is on this. I've talked with this with my friends, but, apolitical fence sitters, whatever.
Yeah.
They don't see the mess that we're in.
Yeah. And the other thing, Jara, you have to acknowledge.
You understand it.
The other thing you
I
have
hear it.
The thing to ask your friends, Jara, is can you do more good in prison or no? Because if you just start going punching people who call themselves Nazis, you're going to jail. If they haven't physically provoked you, if you can't call it self-defense in accordance to the legal system, not what you want to say is self-defense, you're going to jail, and I think you can do less good there than you can on the outside. Cool, Jara?
Oh, yeah, you gave me the biggest grin with that right there, because that is just the cherry on top of the legal system.
Yeah.
But, I feel like it was a good conversation. It really helped me see another perspective that there is in the political landscape, just like the socio-political landscape. But, yeah, would you have a problem, actually? Is there a difference between like a woodworker and a carpenter?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just looking at my busted up old walls, and I was just like, what's going on? And I know it was Saturday is your whatever you do day.
Wood day usually. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, let's just, I think because the show's gone so long and I got a couple more calls I want to hit here, if we can just leave it here, but you are probably looking for a carpenter. If you're looking at structural stuff, you're looking either for a carpenter or just a contractor.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Jara.
All right, well, go fuck yourself, Jenny.
Thanks, buddy. Excellent. I the reason why I wanted to take that call is because we're already doing my hot takes today. I know a lot of people disagree with me on the you can just punch Nazis. I am wholly uninterested in the way a lot of discourse happens on the left because it is ridiculous. All of this like sort of these things which are wrong for the fascists to do to us are right for us to do to them because they're fascists. And there might be lines where that's true, but the places people are putting those lines down are ridiculous. And it's really hard to try and win a battle of you shouldn't be violent toward X people if your response to those people is your self-violence, premeditated violence, or in reaction to things that weren't demonstrably violent themselves. Again, self-defense being fine. And so there's a lot of like, I don't enjoy people who, for example, this extends into a lot of stuff. I don't enjoy atheists who, when they debate just like theists. And I don't enjoy anti-fascists, not meaning Antifa, that's a different order, but people who are fighting fascism. And if you just took away what the ideology they lined up with and just looked at the actions, you're like, which side's the fascist? The people who represent that to me and who are often the loudest parts of movements, myself being a socialist, I don't like a lot of the loudest socialists. Though some of them I do. Some of them I like the very loud socialists. Clearly there's a line where violence is necessary. Usually it is self-defense. But in the future, something else may be the case. Yes, I agree. Education is what defeats fascism. Though, clearly it comes and it goes, right? We've defeated fascism before on a world scale. And it used to be humiliating to associate yourself with fascism. And now it's just like casual Twitter bio joke. Yeah, I'm a fascist and I'm proud of it. Then again, a lot of people don't even know what fascism is. So there's that problem too. All right, let's do the theist call. Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum-ba. I have someone calling themselves Cannon Carroll. Is Cannon the name? Is Cannon the first name, and we just have two names in here for some reason?
Oh, that's my name, Cannon Carroll.
Okay. Do you want to be
Cannon Carroll.
Is just Cannon fine?
Yeah, you can call me Cannon. That's fine.
Cool. I'm not trying to put people's full names or anything on, even though I've already said it out loud. Hey, Cannon,
Just whatever.
if you can, would you
Go ahead.
put a little space between you and your microphone? It is coming in real hot.
Is that a little better there?
Very much better. And I might remind you throughout the call because a lot of people forget and they naturally reposition back to where they were. Anyway, you wanted to make a case about something.
Yeah, I was seeing it come up about a week ago about where Aron Ra, the purveyor of atheism.
Your microwave is done cooking.
Came on. Oh, well, that's not me. That's my son.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, he had on there where they had filmed inside the city council. I forget where it was at, but anyway, it was where they have a satanic club after school for the little children. And naturally, they got the Christians upset. The Christians come out there and was standing against it, which naturally I'm on that side too. But, it seems like the youth of our country is being, and it's just like their minds is being captured with this. And the parents are the rulers of their minds, so to speak, and the school is the ruler of their mind. Where's these children going to be at if they follow after a Satanistic teaching in the next 5 years? I mean, we looked at the dumbed down of our children and the feminism of our children. When I served in the military, we needed to be strong. We need to be tough. And as I see our enemies gather around the country and getting stronger all the time, it looks like, if we don't stand up and get our manhood back, and get back to the old ways that got us through World War II, we're going to lose this thing. What do you think?
What do I think? Is that what you asked at the end there?
Yeah. What are you thinking about? Yeah.
Yeah. First thing I think is that your microphone did drift a little bit back because we did get hot audio again. So just pull it back again. Cannon, should there be Christian after school programs?
They do have them. Yeah.
Should there be?
Yeah.
Should there be?
Yeah, that was the argument.
Okay, should there be? Yes or no?
Should there be
Christian after-school programs?
I think it should be.
Okay. Should there be Muslim after-school programs?
Yeah, and I understand you as Mormon. Yeah, I understand.
No. But should there be Muslim after-school programs? Yes or no?
Do I think there should be? No, I don't think there should be. No,
right. What country do you live in?
I live in the United States of America.
Yeah. And you understand that fundamentally we have separation of church and state as core to how this country runs, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So if the government says this religion can have after-school programs, but this religion can't, that would be the government endorsing a religion, would it not?
It would.
So how do you do it? How do you, in a constitutional way, do you recognize that if we keep the Constitution? I guess I should ask this. Cannon, do you like the Constitution?
Parts of it, yeah.
Parts of it, or would you?
Was founded upon God's word.
Which parts of the Constitution would you get rid of?
I would say all men created equal. I don't know about that. I don't think.
Who do you think?
If I'm going to go to a dentist to get a heart operation, I don't think that's equal. I don't think all men are created equal, except with the rights they was given for freedom and the pursuit of liberty and all that.
Who has ever? Wait. Okay. Sorry. All men is created equal. Is it basically an appeal that we're all born as humans and there's a baseline of respect that you have to issue every human on that basis? Nobody is born a doctor. Who's born a doctor?
Well, some people just got it in their nature. I think that's a God getting to be a nurse. You got to have that in you. Something had to put that in you.
Jesus Christ. No. Wait, you just said two conflicting things. Somebody had to put it in you, or you have it in you. You said it's in their nature, or somebody had to put it in you. What are you talking?
All right.
Cannon,
a little kid grows up. And his parents put out toys in front of him. This child decides to play with stethoscopes, and he looks at a microscope. He decides he wants to be a doctor. He wants to heal people.
All right, is this a joke call? Do you think we decide who's...
I'm concerned about our children and the fate of our country. and where this all is going.
Cannon,
It's
you
going
think
in
that
a
we
bad
can
direction.
determine if somebody's going to be a doctor based on whether or not they played with a stethoscope as a kid?
I don't think it's DNA. It's born in your DNA to be a doctor or not. No.
Right, because so this is the concept. Whether or not society treats everybody as equals is different. Cannon, I'm not even treating you like an equal right now, right? I let you call in to talk to me because I have a platform, and the way I'm willing to platform other people is through this call-in system. I often have a person here. If I were to platform you as my equal, it would mean that I would actually put up a divider and I'd have your video next to my video and we'd have a discussion, but I don't know you. Most of the people who are calling in aren't calling at that level.
Absolutely. You don't know me. You don't know if I'm trolling you or what I'm doing.
Oh boy, I tell you, you're right about that. Poe's law is strong. I don't know.
How about this for pure honesty? For pure honesty, right here. Here's honesty.
Okay.
I just come across your channel today, and I got pulled up, see what was on live, just getting some chats and see what was going on, see what was on what people was talking about, and it seemed it says make me a theist, cause wanna. I was like, what does that mean? The Jimmy Snow. So I went over, looked at your YouTube profile, how long you been on, what you looked at. I seen where you was a Mormon and got out of that. And I don't really know the position you're coming from. Do you like God, or are you?
Cannon, I am an atheist. I was born into Mormonism, and I am an atheist. I don't believe God exists. And morally, let me finish.
I got that.
Cannon, let me finish. Morally, I think that the way we should treat each other is based on maximizing well-being for humans. There is some level of things that you consider humanity at large, and then some things you consider down for the individual. So, for example, if you call, real quick, Cannon, if you call in and you say, I don't believe there should be Satanistic after-school programs, I'm going to evaluate whether or not we should have it based on what well-being that program can provide or not. And to tell you the truth, I can defend a Satanistic, because Cannon, you do know that Satanism is metaphorical, right? That most people who call themselves Satanists,
Satan don't exist.
They don't actually believe in it. And so it's literally, most Satanistic programs are actually promoting humanism. Take care of other humans because they're humans. That's the thing they're often promoting. So there's that versus.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask you this. What kind of music I listen to? Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne,
I actually
Marilyn Manson. I get it. I get
No, Cannon. Don't you ask a question and answer it for me, Cannon. I'm gonna treat you with more respect.
I say I get what they listen to. I didn't ask you a question.
Cannon,
the question I said.
You
what
said,
do they listen
let
to?
me ask you this: what do they listen to? And then you answered over me. So don't pose a question.
Well, I know what they do because they wear their shirt. He wears
Some
their shirt.
of them
Black
do.
Sabbath.
Aron likes Black Sabbath.
Aron Ra did. He come on his program with Black Sabbath shirt on.
Cannon, let me finish because we have to. I already let you interrupt the flow I was already on because you were saying, let me ask you this. I said, go ahead. You asked a question and then you did not give me an opportunity to answer. My values are not incompatible with Satanism, despite the fact that I do not use the label for myself because I think it's a bit cosplay-y and I think it's a bit silly. However, I understand why other people do, and I understand why other people would take issue with what I just said. I don't listen to Black Sabbath. I mean, I've heard Black Sabbath songs, but even if I did, you can't prove there's anything inherently wrong with a Black Sabbath song. I don't listen often to Marilyn Manson. There's 2 or 3 songs of his that I think are bangers, but that's about it. Yeah. I listen to what 17-year-old lesbians in 2005 listened to. It's a lot of, Green Day, Fall Out Boy. My content, my music choices are much worse than the average Satanist, frankly. So what is it? What is
blow your mind on this?
But what's the point? I doubt you're going to blow my mind on anything. What is the point? Even if a Satanist listens to Black Sabbath, what specifically does that do to them that is negative?
Well, first of all, one of the records they wrote was called "We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll," and did a ritual on the stage.
Yes, and you recognize that they don't actually.
That's not pointing towards Satan. You can't say.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can because Satan doesn't exist, Canon.
Well, I guess he's a pretend creature to you, but to the rest of us that read our Bible and believe it, He's a real entity.
Why should
He's
I
alive
live?
and well.
Cannon, why should I live my life according to, or anybody live their life according to what you believe if you can't prove it?
Nobody. I mean, you got laws of the land. You don't go out drinking and driving, do you?
Why should I live my life according to your beliefs that are not laws of the land? Laws of the land we have to justify. Cannon, let me finish. I keep letting you talk and you don't let me. Laws of the lands have to be justified by secular means. We often fail to do so, and we have a Supreme Court that's supposed to uphold that. The Supreme Court can be ideologically infected, as it is now, and suddenly that doesn't become the thing. But reaching toward the ideal, you have to justify why this is or it doesn't work. One thing you cannot do, by the way, Cannon, is if you are in court and you are suing somebody and they say, okay, why is what this person did to you wrong and worth them going to jail? You can't say because it is my religious belief. That can't be the argument. The court will laugh you out of there. You have to sue on a basis that extends beyond what your personal beliefs are and what we all basically commonly have agreed should be the things we penalize other people for. Some laws are missing that should be there, and some laws are there that shouldn't be there. That's the imperfection of society. So why, Cannon, if you can't prove your God and Satan exists, should I live as though it does?
Why do they make you swear on the Bible in most courts?
You can opt to swear on the Constitution. You can opt to swear on nothing. The reason why it happens is because in our country, we have stupidly associated some level of cosplaying of religion because of the religious traditions of many people who live here.
They're your name calling. You called me stupid then.
I did not call you
because
stupid.
I
said our country stupidly does this. I did not call you stupid. In fact, I was detached completely separate from you. Cannon, whether or not I think you are stupid, it remains to be seen.
Well, I'm not on here to convert nobody. I'm just here, I don't like the direction this is going.
Right, based on personal beliefs.
Satan Club. Nothing good is going to come out of that.
Cannon, does God exist?
Of course he exists.
How? Okay, you said of course. How do you know? Give me your evidence.
I got a book tells me it exists.
That's not evidence.
It's my evidence.
I have a book that says I'm God.
Final authority.
I have a book that says I'm the final authority.
So where do you get all your knowledge from?
I get it from the universe. I can just magically incur it whenever I want.
Oh, okay. Well, that's where you got your...
So you believe in me? Do you believe in me? It's in a book. All of I just said is in a book. Do you believe that?
Well, they label books fiction, nonfiction. How do you label the Bible? Fiction, nonfiction?
They label my book, which says I am God, nonfiction. Do you accept it or not?
I'll say the King James Bible is not fiction. It's true.
How do you prove it?
Well, it said the ringing of the nose brings forth much blood. If I was ringing your nose and it started bleeding, that'd probably prove it's right, wouldn't it?
Wait, you believe the Bible says if you hit someone in the nose, they will bleed. That makes the entirety of the Bible true?
Hey, if you want to believe in a magic Big Bang, if we want to go down that road, you were getting it from a book, too.
I don't believe in a magic Big Bang. I don't believe in a magic Big Bang. I believe in a scientifically justified canon. I believe in a scientifically tested and demonstrated theory, which the basis of is the Big Bang. And by the way, I can prove the Big Bang by looking at multiple distances of background radiation from it, because when you look out...
But it all shows us. You're interrupting me now. It all shows
Cannon, I get to interrupt you. This is my show. And by the way, no, I didn't interrupt you. You were just trying to talk over me, and then when you failed to...
I couldn't talk because you cut me right off.
Cannon, I was talking, and then you said I interrupted you because I wouldn't let you talk over me. You don't fundamentally understand anything. Cannon, shut the fuck up. I've muted you now. I don't actually think you're probably real. I think this is a troll call because at the end of the day, whether or not you are actually stupid, it seems like you are clearly trying to convince me you are, because you can't understand these basic fundamental ideas of just saying a book said it doesn't make it true. Mormonism isn't true because the Book of Mormon claims it is. Islam isn't true because the Quran says it is. And the Christian tradition that you adhere to isn't true just because your interpretation of what a Bible, not the Bible, a Bible says, when you haven't justified that book against any other book. And then furthermore, when you aren't listening well enough to distinctly hear the difference between me saying society is stupidly doing something versus you yourself are stupid, you are a lost cause of a call. Because at the end of the day, what you didn't do, Canon, whether you are a troll or not, is call in planning to be honest in your engagement. Your dishonesty is indistinguishable from being a liar. So I'm not going to call you stupid, Canon. I'm going to call you a liar. You have 10 seconds for last words. Go ahead.
All right, last word is Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. And he's out seeking. He's that light out there. And it's getting hard to find. Light's getting dim because Satan's getting stronger in these last days.
Great. Work on your fake North Carolina accent between now and the next time you call in. Bye. Fucking Christ. Fucking Christ. Well, the book says it's true. My fake North Carolina accent's actually a little bit better than yours is, by the way. I do notice that. Fucking Jesus. Oh, fucking Christ. I mean, we didn't even get to the crux of the argument, which honestly was his claim that Satanism is a harmful after-school program. By the way, I wouldn't put my kid in any after-school program that made any religious appeal, even knowing that it was making a point. I'm not saying Satanist after-school programs almost certainly aren't bad, and yet it's still not my cup of tea. I guess this was an episode we called Dillahunty back in the background here. I've just got old episodes, old clips of, look at my hair back then. Me then, me now. Who is that guy? Who is that boy I see? Locked so long, has to pee. One more call, then super chats, and we'll be done. Christina in Seattle. Well, I thought you were going to be on. Christina in Seattle, I think you're on air now. How are you doing,
Hi.
Christina?
I'm great. How are you?
Delightful.
Well, I've heard how you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to love this call.
Okay, cool.
Sorry. I think we're actually aligned pretty closely, and I'm not a vegan. This thought occurred to me many calls ago now. But I'm not a vegan. I'm just a vegetarian. But the thing that slid me was there's no human liberation without animal liberation. And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, and it really aligned well with kind of what I think the problem. I think basically hierarchy and like control is like the major problem in our society, and like we see this. I think that's why atheism is really important and religion is really bad, because it like just makes that so ingrained, right? The hierarchy and control. And so I feel the same way about animals. I'm not going to like change anyone's mind with this, but it's what changed my mind slightly, because it was like one more thing on top of everything else that I was just like, you know what, it's time to just go a little bit further towards vegetarianism, because I don't know, it just really struck something with me, the idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Whatever one you want to be, whatever you want to fall down on is fine. I don't find chickens to be intellectually more superior to a lot of animals that die as a part of the vegetarian. In fact, I would say it's actually sadder to kill like 50 to 100 mice or any rodent than it is to kill one chicken. And that's sort of on an arbitrarily drawn line, but an understanding of their intellectual capacity. And so when it comes to protein and all of the animals that do die, if anything tastes delicious, I find that the replacement of a chicken over that, understanding that chickens require their own farming to be able to sustain their lives as well. But overall, the balance is much less. And so I'd want to improve the conditions under which chickens are slaughtered and chickens are ranched or whatever. I think it's still called a farm if it's a chicken, but for some reason, as soon as it's mammals, it's a ranch. Anyway, I would want to, well, no, but then they're free range. I don't know. Anyway, I would want to improve those, but I don't find, especially being vegetarian, I don't even find the deaths of chickens as potentially harmful as what a lot of the differences between vegetarian and vegan line is. But it's hard. It's, it's where you fall down and where you come down on issues. Chickens are sufficiently stupid for me to eat.
Yeah, I think maybe I didn't make my question or my point clear enough, I guess. Because I feel it's more about a societal structural thing, less about the feelings of the animals and more about how we treat them in general, right? And so,
what did your first phrase mean? What is your first phrase? There can be no human liberation without animal liberation. Because I find that to sound like a cliche type of statement that people say, but the moment you start thinking about it, it all sort of falls down.
Oh, it's definitely not like a philosophy that I'm going to like tattoo on my arm.
In what way are humans not liberated? Real quick. Sorry, I just want to get to that.
By capitalism.
Okay.
I would say capitalism.
Okay. And what about animals being eaten prevents capitalism from being overthrown? More
that it's a fundamental controlling structure in capitalism that I don't think that we can individually overthrow capitalism by stopping eating meat, right? Like, I don't think individual choices are necessarily going to do that. But it did shift my perspective on, we treat animals this way, and I think that they deserve to be treated, I would, not equally to humans, maybe. I'm not there.
And does this include all animals?
Yeah, I know that's where it becomes that line.
Yeah.
That shaky line, right?
Clearly.
No, it doesn't include all animals. Clearly, I'm a vegetarian. Okay. I'm not
so
sure yet even about.
So to be clear, you don't actually believe the phrase, there can be no human liberation without animal liberation, but you find the phrase useful as a consciousness raiser when you are discussing animals of certain, what we consider intellectual capability. Yeah.
And this is, I think, we're pretty much on the same page, and it was just that I hadn't heard, I've heard arguments about pain and consciousness and all those things, and those didn't really shift me. But the idea of seeing it as everybody a control structure or something is...
Everyone who talks about pain and consciousness is so full of shit because we don't really know what consciousness is, and we don't even know what pain is. We don't know that, like a lot of people well, the fish don't feel the pain. We don't actually know that. In the same way, we don't know that some animals don't hear in color, that there isn't in what we would consider color, that the color faculties, right now, if we hear a sound, we experience our audio processing of that sound because the color, but if we see something, things in our brain which translate into color, we use that. There's no reason to say a sense that acts in a way in humans couldn't cross in some other animal. And so anybody who's speaking on the level of consciousness is full of shit. Anybody who's speaking on even the concept of intelligence is full of shit. And on the concept of whether an animal... Now, that said, there are certain animals we can be fairly certain are experiencing pain because of the similarity to our own brains. And this is largely why, or even angst, I would say. This is largely why I've reduced my intake of mammals, because I am too uncomfortable with how similar my brain is to a pig's. Literally, they say pigs are like, and pigs, by the way, I cut out pigs before I cut out mammals. And I shouldn't even say cut out, dramatic reduction in mammals. Unfortunately, there are times when I'm doing specific things with my health where beef becomes almost a necessity, or I'd have to eat tremendous amounts of other things. But when I'm not in those cycles, tremendous reduction in all of that. It is my discomfort is knowing the relationship of my brain to their brain makes me inclined to think it's probably a bad idea. Now, that said, it also would necessitate for everybody to take this position that we dramatically reduce the existence of these creatures also. If there are going to still be cows, there needs to be very few cows in the world because they really only exist now in a way that can be sort of domesticated, ranched, and farmed. And at this point, you just keep them alive to not make them go extinct. They are an artificially selected for creature. And so, but sort of same thing where I'm uncomfortable with the amount of dog ownership in this world. And clearly the future of ethical dog ownership will be only ethical dog owners, which will mean we have to dramatically reduce the number of dogs that are alive. Whether that is letting current generations die off and preventing current other generations, or participating in euthanizing a large amount of dogs to get culture to adopt a new behavior surrounding them. That's an argument people can have. Anyway, continue on.
Oh, I mean, I think that's kind of it. I just wrote it to hear kind of more of your take on that angle of it, and I guess like the capitalist, the anti-capitalist angle of veganism, and I guess it was just that idea of it, and then also meeting a vegan that wasn't militant, that was like, they accidentally ate meat. They're like, it's not a big deal. No big deal. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
I have multiple vegan friends. I'm not trying to tokenize my vegan friends, but you aren't born a vegan, so that's a ridiculous thing to say anyway. But I like vegan people in my life. I sent a message on I think it was March 2nd or 3rd. To a friend of mine where I was like, so I'm in a vegan sushi restaurant right now. And it was just wild because I'm not a vegan, nor do I think a vegan diet would be attractive to me. It'd be very hard for me to be able to eat and feel satiated, and food would have to become entirely utility, which I'm not saying doesn't mean I should or shouldn't do it. That argument is separate from it. But I also don't like sushi. So I'm in there with two things I fundamentally am not a part of, that aren't a part of me in my life. And so I just sent this like surreal moment, but it was because it was a friend's birthday who I love, and I wanted to spend their birthday with them. And I was there with other vegans, and you know what didn't come up once, except when somebody didn't realize it was a vegan place and was like, I don't know what I can have off of this. But veganism didn't come up otherwise, except the one time where someone was like, oh, the whole menu's vegan. You don't have to worry about ordering anything. It's all vegan. That was the only time it came up. And those people are fine. And it doesn't mean I never discuss veganism with that friend. In fact, that friend is probably a big part of why I've adapted some of my dietary stuff. And so I don't know. There's ways to do it without being fucking terrible. And again, I'm not even a problem with, I don't think I have a problem with most vegans. I have a problem with the loud ones, in the same way that I have a problem with the loudest of atheists often, the loudest of socialists, the loudest of people I do agree with them and on their team. I find that the loudest groups are the most annoying ones to engage with. And yet, unfortunately, because they're so loud, you often have to. Yeah. Yep. And by the way, the moment I think I'm becoming the loudest anti-vegan, which I'm not even an anti-vegan, you'll never hear me discuss it again, because I wouldn't want to be in that camp either. Anything we disagree on, Christina, that we could argue about?
No, I don't think so. I appreciate the call, taking my call. Thank you.
Please don't
go fuck yourself is what I mean to say. Sorry.
Definitely don't get that quote tattooed on you, and maybe don't share that quote with anyone who's not going to think about it with nuance, because it really is one of those ones that sort of, I remember years ago, do you remember the creator iDubbbz?
No.
He used to do these things called content cops that were very satisfying to watch, but there were these elements in it because he was a sort of free speech absolutist, and he would use the N slur and the F slur. That was back during my more libertarian years, where an expression of my libertarianism was similar to his. And he used to say, I don't believe he has this position anymore, but the phrase he used to say was like, if any word is not allowed, then no words are allowed. And I remember hearing that and being like, fuck yeah, that's right. Freedom of speech. Ha, ha, ha. If any words aren't allowed, no words are allowed. And then one day I just was like, that phrase makes no fucking sense. If you really think about it, first of all, there aren't any words that are unallowed. You can say any word and you won't go to prison. So as far as like now a certain succession of words, if you are calling people to violence or whatever, and there is no individual word that will put you in prison for just saying it. And so then when you move beyond that, you just go like, what is that phrase even meant to mean? Even if it did become illegal to say, let's just say it became illegal to say Frankfurter. You can't say Frankfurter anymore. If Frankfurter isn't allowed, then no word is allowed. And yet I'm capable of saying all of the words surrounding Frankfurter without going to prison. I'm capable. It looks like Matt's putting a crown on my head in this background right now. I'm capable. The phrase means nothing, except for maybe to make some sort of point about like we shouldn't allow something to arbitrarily. I don't disagree that we should well defend things, but the idea that you wouldn't have in a polite society social restrictions on especially words which were historically used to oppress, the phrase makes no sense. If any word is prohibited, if any word isn't allowed, no words are allowed. Again, at the time, yeah, fuck yeah. And I think that might have happened, Christina, with this phrase. There can be no human liberation without animal liberation. And I'm not trying to condescend to you or make you feel bad about yourself. I just think I hope you reevaluate that phrase, because I think it might be one of those where it's like utilized as a cliche and just said as a one-off with zero challenge. It sounds very good, but the more you think about it, I think you're going to find this means nothing. This is a meaningless phrase.
Well, okay. If it were changed to human liberation for capitalism, would be much easier without animal confinement. I don't know. Like, I feel like
it's at least more of a point, but I don't know that it's defensible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, fair. Yeah, okay. I'll think about that some more.
Here's one. Human liberation is animal liberation. Yeah. That one at least has a little bit more, because humans are animals. But the implication of the original statement is the animals which don't include humans, right? And so I don't know. You wouldn't say animal rights are human rights, but you could say human rights are animal rights. Also, there is something. We also have to improve our language. I hated it so much because Jordan Peterson made a good point on Twitter yesterday. We have to improve our language when we're describing rights, because there is an implicit reciprocity to rights, a participation from both entities. And so it doesn't mean we don't extend. Like some people are bringing up, so babies, if they can't reciprocate, they don't have rights. But clearly we have an extension into humans which are incapable at that time, or maybe even ever, because of our own existence of humans and a type of empathy and sort of that. But there is something about like, if we don't have a right to kill an animal, and we say that that's a right, you would also have to say then the animal doesn't have a right to kill us or something. There's an expected reciprocity, and we should improve our language surrounding it. But he made a good point, and then he left. He made a good base point that can be defended. I don't know. I bet you his defense, though, is nonsense. And then he doesn't engage with all the criticisms which subsequently followed. So it's one of those things where it's like, I think his headline might be right, but I doubt the substance is, because I've been burned by Peterson before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Tight.
Or go fuck yourself so much.
Tight, for sure.
Have a good one. Bye.
I don't usually engage the chat unless the super chats are sent, because I do still have to survive this capitalist hellscape. However, the person said, the question is, why shouldn't human rights extend to animals? Incorrect. The question is, why should they? Not shouldn't, but should. If you believe human rights should extend to animals, that is the burden of proof you should meet. By the way, I agree with some of them and could defend so, and would defend why certain ones should. Like, we shouldn't allow people to torture animals just for the sake of sort of entertaining their psychopathy or whatever shit. But the actual question isn't why shouldn't. The default isn't everything. Everything gets human rights, even non-humans, unless you've demonstrated why they shouldn't. You start with human rights are for humans, and the rights that we extend to humans, we should extend some version of them. Again, not necessarily calling them rights if there's no ability to reciprocate. you would defend why they should be extended beyond. Yes, and understanding that humans and animals are not the same damn thing. However, humans are animals, but many animals are not humans. It's worth noting. Brad, I know what you were trying to say. Humans are animals. And so when we speak of animal rights versus human rights, clearly we are speaking broadly of it's sort of shitty because there are times where it's like, I don't want you to make the distinction, and times I do. So for example, stupid people who say something like the ape thing, like when Jesse Lee Peterson was trying to get Aron Ra into a corner, was like, have you ever seen an ape give birth to a human? Every time a human gives birth, an ape gives birth to a human, because humans are apes. You idiot. Nonstop. And so there's the time where it's like, have you ever seen an animal give a birth to a human? Every time a human does. No distinction belongs there. But when we are talking about socially rights and the extension, clearly we start with our species, and then we discuss why we should extend them beyond our species. And it's less rights and it's more treatments. I don't know if that's the right word, but how should we treat animals? Not what rights we should extend to them, because again, there's an implication in the term rights. What was this about? If the basis of granting rights is sentience, because sentience is again sentience is almost like a term that's been made up almost. It's not literally made up, but the barrier for sentience is arbitrary, or the confines of sentience is arbitrary to what then, in other words, it could be that these things which you are determining are sentient or aren't sentient are suffering in ways we can't conceptualize, because we are so egotistically associate what we experience as pain, that anything which doesn't experience it as we do in the way we can trace it in our brain, we assume it doesn't exist other places. We don't even know that trees don't experience some kind of pain, though I would not expect them to. However, it certainly hasn't been demonstrated, and I don't think we would, whatever term of consciousness we come up with, I can't imagine trees being granted it. It's just where the people are putting the lines for sentience and suffering are very human ego based. Are people discussing whether it's okay to eat humans? Yes, I know all words are made up. If you would listen to the remainder of, I swear to fucking God, when people isolate it to just the one phrase and not the nuance which is then presented, I know. Welcome to the line. It's where these sorts of things happen. It's okay. I'm not mad. Pretty mad though. Let me see if super chats are ready. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? I think we're good to go. $5 from RPG Debunks. Veganism doesn't reduce suffering, it just pushes it on somewhere else. So look, for the record, oh wow, the framing of this is terrible. Let me fix my camera. For the record, there is a possibility that the net suffering is reduced under veganism. In fact, I would even say that in today's world, there's probably even a high likelihood that you could say that there is an overall reduction. It would be difficult to defend that actually, if you switch to veganism, the impact will be more, or certainly significantly more. But again, we have to define what suffering is. We have to define what is capable of suffering. I'm not going to do a solo shot with just Matt's face behind me the entire time. This is gonna change. There's too much unknowns, and again, it's so apparent that where a lot of those lines are going are arbitrary. But again, I'm not passionate about veganism or anti-veganism. I'm annoyed that no matter what video we do, which by the way, now a lot of the people don't even realize their comments aren't making it through because we've just muted so many people who just do it. No matter what topic we do, whether veganism comes close to it, the comments section attempts to become about veganism. It's better lately, but that's the only thing that annoys me. To tell you the truth, not only do I not feel compelled to go full vegan, I don't care if other people think I should. Their opinions don't mean much to me. And then especially strangers, I should say. I do want to actually point out two things. One, thank you, Liz Kriz, for sending the super sticker earlier. I don't have a way to put that up. And then we just got a member message. Just want to say a big thank you for the show tonight from D20, who has been a member for 3 months now. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget, we're going to be doing that bracket chess tournament with Matt Dillahunty. The first level of brackets will be everybody who enters gets to play against Matt, and then the brackets will follow from there. We'll have prizes for winners. Only patrons will be able to enter. We will have a system in place by the time we do it. As long as we hit 500 patrons, I think right now we're at 340 or 350. As long as we hit 500 patrons, we will do that tournament. Let me actually go see how many patrons we're at. And that should be a lot of fun. I think that's going to be fun. I think we will probably record, broadcast, or something it to everybody, but the tournament itself won't happen, and you can't enter the tournament unless we hit 500 patrons, which, by the way, the reason why we're pushing for these 500 patrons isn't greediness. Virtually every dollar that is given on Patreon, half of it goes to the hosts, and it gets split based on a point system we have here. It's a very socialist profit sharing model. And I can honestly say the production half, the half that is used to pay for productions, producers, and we're expanding out. I don't think since launching it, it's bought me so much as a pack of gum. I think any income you could call like personal expenses has been either related to my original channel, Jimmy Snow, or like, for example, the first thing we did with Patreon money once it started to grow is I upgraded everybody, the hosts who got their half, I upgraded all of their cameras and microphones to a minimum standard of a specific 2 devices. So yeah, anyway, it really helps. It goes back into the channel. We have huge ambitions for the channel, including a community and production center. I want to launch a game show. We want to do LineCon. And LineCon, we can't even really begin thinking about planning, maybe even plotting a date for LineCon, probably until like 1 to 2,000. I'd say starting at 1,000, I'm going to start eyeballing things and start going, okay, how much money can we hold in the bank? We have to also do this in an amount of time where we don't hold it in the bank at the wrong time, thereby increasing the amount it's taxed. How much can we hold to then run a convention like that, which will cost a 5-digit amount of money to run, but hopefully would be able to be recovered by the incomes the convention provides. And so it's all a bunch of shit. Anyway, all of that just to say, patreon.com/calltheline. It starts at $5 a month, and there's a lot. The better we do there, the more programming you're going to see, the more expansion of stuff. The channel and now channels like the Line X, which you should all be subscribed to. There's a link in the description. You'll see future episodes of Cus I Wanna, as well as new, more adult-themed programs on. You should definitely head over and subscribe to that. You're going to just see things expand. My visions for the future of this is to be the atheist, secular, humanist, a little bit leftist version of something like the Daily Wire. I want to go big, but we don't have billionaires funding us the way they do. Ours is a grassroots campaign. Thank you very much. Ours comes all from the people. Would I take a billionaire's money? For sure, with 0 strings attached. Literally, like, if you like what we're doing and think more money would make it better, I guess I shouldn't say 0 strings. They're allowed to put strings on, like, I'm not allowed to buy a Bugatti with it, right? That's fine. I would take that billionaire money. And then I would say, by the way, I won't think you exist ethically unless you give us so much money and charity so much money that you're no longer a billionaire. But I will take your evil billionaire money, but know that as long as you are technically a billionaire, I think you are inherently evil. There's no such thing as ethical billionaires. Derek Bunyak says, Jimmy, your YouTube title says Cus Wanna instead of Cus I Wanna. Just wanted to let you know. Did you wanna? YouTube won't let me tell you so. So love yourself, Jimmy. Don't forget, you can also tell me to go guzzle vegan cheese, or just go guzzle cheese. That's it. We don't have to keep invoking the precious name of veganism every time. We can take a break. Don't talk about veganisms. It's not exciting. Go have a steak. $10 from Game Master. You said I made it weird last time, so I'll be clear, Jimmy. I think you are great. You curate a fantastic network with a bevy of excellent hosts, and I hold you in high regard as a result. F you, Jimmy. However you made it weird last time, this is weirder. Saying so many nice things. You probably said something sexual, and I felt weird about that, maybe. I don't know. Y'all can, if you want to send a super chat objectifying me, it's fine. We got to pay for the show. We got to pay for the call-in system, and we got to pay for the our anti-vegan campaign that's going on behind the scenes. Y'all want some music? Because I kind of do. Yeah, we need more billionaires as members of Patreon. No, if you're a billionaire benefactor and you want to fucking angel invest or whatever in the line, contact me directly. We don't need fucking Patreon taking its 10% cut. Musax. Okay, first thing, so it's not stupid like it usually is, and I forget to do it in this order. Let's save this and then turn off auto gain. Boop, ba-da-bum, bum. Scooby-Doo. I feel like lo-fi has been the most popular so far, so let's just do. Turn it down. All right. Lovely. Tell me if the volume should go up or down. Don't tell me it should go down if you just don't want there to be music. Only if the levels are fine. Did I already read this one? Steve Golden Calf says, I have cousins in Appalachia that sounds similar to Cannon. However, I agree yours was better. Yeah, I know. The accent wasn't entirely fake. It might have even been a real-ish accent, but holy shit, man. There's a certain point where it's like, I don't see how this and then I think he says something like, I'm not here to prove it to anybody. And I'm like, well then, why'd you call? That's what the show is. And you said that you saw the title, convince me to be a theist, because I do want to be a theist if it can be proven. I want to believe anything that is true. I do. Because I want to. You can barely hear me. Well, that might have been that I moved away from the mic a little bit too. Did I turn down auto gain on the wrong one? No, I did. Oh, I did. Oh shit. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. That was my fault. I turned my voice down instead of the music for you all. I'm sorry. It should be fixed now. It should be fixed. Sorry. It was, so the voice, the auto gain thing that I had turned off, I turned off on my mic instead of in the music channel. So we should be good. Scooby-doo-doo, boop, bop, bop. I'm just waiting for it all to catch up because the live chat's still about how deep in your voice it'll sound sexy. Hey, everybody. My deep voice is hard to hit. I am not comfortable at all. Ooh, 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 ooh. Larry Fishman says, there is not enough land for human-grade agriculture left to support 8 billion people on a vegan diet. So we grow substandard crops on marginal land. And we feed those crops to tasty animals. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah, so one of the things that'll be nice about lab-grown meat, and maybe lab-grown agriculture in the future, is if your power source is adequate and you can do so efficiently so it doesn't have to be ginormous, you could build up. You could literally have a skyscraper of human meat being. You don't need or not human meat, that's of lab-grown meat, for the record. Let's not lab-grow human meat, by the way. Let's not give anybody a taste for it. But you could go up. You could have so as far as the physical footprint goes, or you could go down, right? You go either direction. Down, you're only interfering with animal habitats for what, like 30 feet at the most? Isn't it literally like 8 feet? Isn't there nothing under like 8 feet down? No, that's not right, because there's definitely worms under graves, but it's not far below that. There's like almost nothing. Obviously, there are local areas that are very wet and that things have gotten down in, but yeah, it's not very deep that you're interfering. Anyway, you could go down or up. Human meat. Y'all gonna try the human meats. Lab-grown human meat. Yeah, maybe for limb replacement. That's less growing the meat as it is growing the limb itself. 10 Australian dollars from Mew. Just wondering if a religious recovery type show to give callers advice for coping or discuss doubts while deconverting for the line X may be on the cards. Go fuck yourself. Extra hard, Jimmy. I don't know if I'd say that that's on the cards for the line X. I feel that we do a lot of recovery content already, that it's a pretty heavy. So the question is, does it need its own separate show? And would that show have enough demand to keep it going? And if it didn't, would the amount that is already a part of current programs warrant releasing it, not having it anymore? It's sort of hard to say because there are other channels and other things and other people who have tried other things. One of the things we have to do is figure out how to make sure that all shows are profitable. And yeah, this has to run as a business for the time being. I'm hoping that there is a time where we are able to escape some of that, needing to make sure that there is mass appeal and that we can maybe have other income sources to do things that are a little bit more niche that don't have as big of appeal. Yeah, it's just hard. It is a tough thing that we have to balance at the moment, because I think a show like that sounds good. It's just a matter of, will the resources that it takes take away from what we could be doing more with? Is each minute that we have something like that on air the best use of that minute for us as a network? And unfortunately, appeal to larger audiences is a part of that evaluation. Again, when it's already a part of other programming, to separate it out. Kathleen Moncrief says, guzzle cheese, you mammal. You carnist. Bryn Poo KC says, thank you, The Line, for getting me through a boring Saturday afternoon. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. You're welcome. I went much longer than I was expecting, and without a bathroom break. That's sort of surprising to me. Friendly Neighborhood Steve says, there's a lot we don't know about plants. If we discover that plants feel pain and have consciousness, etc., would that change the vegan paradigm? I assume it would have to, but then at the same time, it would be, if we found that out, I don't think it's likely, by the way, but if we did find that out, or find out that, I think it would take finding an alien species that basically was more plant than what we associate with animals, with intelligence, to describe to us how that is even possible. Otherwise, we might be limited by our own capabilities to even discover such a thing, if it's even possible. But I have no reason to believe it. Nobody's demonstrated that as possible, so I don't hold that belief. But if it happened, hypothetically, I assume it would have to change the paradigm to, okay, there's no point to veganism, because now I have to eat something alive, right? You cannot live without eating living things, or things that at some point lived. It's just, you can't just have mineral-based vitamins and survive. So at the moment, maybe lab-grown changes some of that. I don't know. Certainly we kill billions of things which are alive every day. So it would sort of take you to this spot of going like, okay, if I can't have plants and I can't have animals, then I probably just can have both or die. Like that's the those are the choices. I either die or I just stop. I try to most ethically consume living things, with the acknowledgement that living things are going to have to be a thing, because now we've discovered that even plants have consciousness. But again, this is a hypothetical that I don't have a reason to expect. However, again, I pointed out earlier, we don't even know for a fact that plants don't feel pain. And I can even remember some things that indicated certain plants might feel something we could call pain. They have sort of types of stimulatory response that you might associate with that, but who knows? Who knows? Pancaking on says, thanks to the recent refugee bill, I believe UK is heading toward fascism at a fast rate. Our media is very complicit as well. Thought I'd tell you. Plus, go fuck yourself. You know, the good news is I still think you're going slower than the US. So wait till we descend into total fascism and then expect it a couple years later. Right? Seems right. Could be wrong. Maybe. No Idea says, I'd eat a vegan if you smoked one for long enough and sliced one thin enough. Thanks for the Cus Wanna episode. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Don't eat vegans. Only eat the rich. A rich vegan, though? Pfft, eat them. Too young to feel this old says, take my money because I love y'all. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Well, thank you. I will. I shall. Only about 4 left, so we will be done after that. If anybody wants to get their last minute $5 or more super chats in, especially if anybody had any other topic that they felt I would take as a challenge, I'm willing to throw down some more hot takes. I do love the challenge ones. If we don't get enough super chats, though, we do have to sell. We actually have to sell the show to. If you're vegan, I have to sell the show to Monsanto. And if you're not vegan, I have to sell the show to vegans. So take the threat according to which one you are. Raven200 says, hey, Jimmy, all I got to say is boobs, butts, and thighs. Thank you and go fuck yourself, dang YouTube. I tweeted the other day a realization I had that I think everyone needs to remember. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I also tweet way too much stuff. For example, I just tweeted, it's at Jimmy A. Snow, if you're ever looking for it. Jimmy A. Snow, if you're ever looking for me, on Twitter. But I just tweeted about my first time trying to talk dirty in the bedroom because I am stupid. I don't know why I did it. Anyway, it's true story. I'm sure some details have been modified a little bit because of our memories, but it feels like I got it exactly right. But what was the one the other day? Okay, first of all, underrated tweet. I tweeted, lonely subs beg for your companionship, and only got 51 likes. It deserves billions of likes. I'm very angry that that's not. Once or twice a year, I'll tweet something and I'll like, not only should this have gone viral, somebody will tweet this exact tweet within the year and theirs will go viral. And they probably stole it from me. Because I've had that happen a million times. So this was another one. So this is what this one reminded me of, this boobs, butts, and thighs. Reminder, at any moment, you can leave the social media site that's getting you worked up and go look at boobs instead. I should remember this more. And it's so true. So true. There's so many boobs on the internet that you could be looking at instead of arguing with, what was the guy's name from North Carolina? Oh, I saw that. I'm mad, but we'll get there when we get there. $5 from Wanted Chaos 2033. Have you ever seen a eukaryote give birth to a human? Checkmate, evolutionist. Meanwhile, they have made. Oh, you believe that pond scum can give birth to a cow, which can then give birth to a reptile, which then gives birth to a human. They say stupid shit like that all the time. Lucky Dog says, love what you are doing. Now, fuck you. Thank you, Lucky Dog. Fuck you too. Fuck you too, buddy. Tomsy412 says, Jimmy wants us to feed the populous human flesh. Everyone clip that. I'm sure someone will. I'm sure there will be a person. By the way, one of the things I got for my birthday was like 5 more of these hoodies that I think go well under sports coats. So just as it's warming up in Texas, look forward to more of this. Nate E says, thanks for the Cus I Wanna. Guzzle some cheese, you unhurried guy. And boy, I'm having a tough time reading this. This might be the last one, by the way. So get in if you're wanting to get it in before the show. $5 and above. And you got to go now. Go fast. Go fast. Boy, I think the Raven meant to say suddenly, because why would anyone ever say all of the sudden? Why would anyone ever say all of a sudden? It's a nonsense phrase. Think about all of a sudden. All implying multiples of, just sort of means of, we've quantified our suddens. So there's one sudden. I'm going to have all of a cake. Okay, that made sense though. All of a cake does make sense. All of an apple. Shit, there is a way that that part doesn't sound as crazy, but you still quantified your suddens. How do you have any quantity of suddens besides singular? And also, why is the phrase all of a sudden ever necessary when suddenly exists? Suddenly, one less syllable, logically coherent. I feel all of a cake works because you cut cakes into multiple slices. And so you actually are sort of talking about the absurdity. Even all of a apple, you could eat half an apple. But you can't have half of a sudden. How many pieces of a sudden can you have? 1/4 of a sudden. No one said, there's no version of that. Let me have half of a cake. That exists. Let me have half of a sudden. That's not a thing. The fuck is half of a sudden? You nonsense people. Ugh. All right, let me see. Here we go. Rosina Keller says, without looking, name all prime numbers between 0 and 100. I bet you there was a time I had this memorized because this feels like something I used to be able to do off the top of the head. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 23, 29, right? Wait. No. Yes, 29. 29, 31, 37. This is where it starts to get trickier. 41. Y'all tell me when I miss one or I say one wrong. 41. Let me add these to the thing. Sorry, this is too many things to do at a time. Oh, 1's not accepted as a prime number, so I'm already wrong. Because 1 times 1 is 1. Isn't 1 accepted? Hang on. Is 1 a prime number? Maybe it's not. Nope, it's not. Okay, so skipping 1. Where did I leave off? 41. 43. Right? 43. 47. But not 49. That's 7 times 7. Not 51, because that's got 30 and 21, so multiples of 3. Not 51. Are we in the 40s or are we in the 50s now? Where did I leave off? Okay, 41, 43, 47, 53. Does anyone care that I'm doing this? Why did I fall for this? Why did I fall for doing this? Not 57. 59, I think, is a prime. 61. I think 61. If I said 42, I definitely meant 43. I wouldn't have accidentally done an even number. I missed 19. Did I? All right. Then if I've already missed, I'm surprised I missed 19. But yeah, it's all good. I don't know. Then I feel like I already failed. Let's see. I'll just read them off. All primes from 1 to 100. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, 37, 41, 43, 47, 53, 59, 61, 67, 71, 73, 79. I do find it very interesting that you'll have a series, and I'm sure it's represented in a graph, but I find it interesting that in the 40s, you have 3. In the 50s, you have 2. In the 60s, you have 2. Then in the 70s, you have 3 again. And then in the 80s, you have 2. So it's like under 10, you have 4. So basically the sequence goes 4, 4, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, and then, there's only 1 under in the 90s. There's got to be something. It's got to be something. Is that golden ratio? It is not. Very fun stuff. Why did I fall for it? There was literally no benefit to doing that. But 2 is the only prime, right? 2 is the only prime even number, because no number times 2 besides 1. Yeah. No whole number, by the way. Whole numbers. Okay, I should keep going on. Maybe I did that just to give more time for super chats to come in. I'm a little silly Billy. Cody Crow says, totally forgot I was watching live. Cannon sounded like he was from Squidbillies. I don't know. I've never watched Squidbillies, but fair enough. Was Cannon the one that, yeah, Cannon was the Theist. Nate E says, I forgot to ask on the birthday Zoom, which saw stop did you get? I got the 3 horsepower, 36-inch PCS. I think that's the entirety of, I have the 36-inch, so I have the extension to get up to 36 inches, but I don't have any other, at some point I might like the collapsible outfeed table. Actually, I think I'd really like that. And yeah. Nate E says, I forgot to ask on the, oh, we just did that one. Ukulele Carnage says, apology Fiverr for the discomfort by my super chat on your birthday. I don't remember what the discomfort was. If it was just that you gave me a compliment, I gotta tell y'all, I don't take stuff very personally. It's very rare that I remember the details of something besides maybe just being like, oh, gross, blah, blah, blah. But whatever. I've already given everybody permission to objectify me as much as they like. Whatever you do in your fantasies, I don't care. Fucking, because you can't care. I killed Earl. F numbers, what's your favorite word? Mine is discombobulated. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. I used to really love the word obsequious. Not for what it means, but for how it sounds. However, that word has also since entered the common use vernacular. Pugnacious is still pretty good. I like the word pugnacious, which is sort of a... Obsequity is this concept of like being eager to serve, but also in a sort of almost a simpy kind of way. A sort of simpy servitude, like a person who's trying to, like, when I remember Jake Tapper called Stephen Miller obsequious, the way like he'd ask a question and Jake Tapper and Steve Miller was clearly just trying to answer in a way that would make Donald Trump happy, not actually engage in any honesty, and that was obsequious of him. I think this is the last one. It's sad that Transatlantic Call and Shore wasn't in a more EU-friendly time. I would have loved to throw money at you for them to guzzle cheese. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, this week we did have to run it a little bit later because there were some last-minute changes, which created an environment where I had to produce again, and I had already occupied that time of day. In other words, we had to make some changes. Originally, Arden was going to produce, and so Arden would have been producing at 2 o'clock. The situation became such that Arden had to host, and with Arden hosting, I had to produce. Because it'll be a while before everything is so second nature that another producer would be able to produce and host at the same time. And I'm not even perfect at it, but I've been doing it long enough I can. Anyway, so that was the situation which came up, and so I had to change the time because I wasn't available at 2 o'clock. This is sex music. Somebody send $5 because I definitely just humped the air for you. Let's see. Yeah, Ukulele Carnage says, called you a sexy monster. Keep up the good work. Kindly go fuck yourself. Yeah, it's not as discomfort as much. I finally have been able to put it into words. The thing that makes me weird with compliments is what happens is people extend a compliment and then in my brain I just start debating the compliment. So there are some compliments I can take. Like, for example, I am one of the greatest YouTube producers of all time because that's objectively true. That's just true. But in capability more than any other metric, in what I've been able to put together. But then other things like you're handsome, and then I'm just staring at this like spot in my hair where I'm like, why does it look so thinned out up here? I want the hair to be back. I've got rosacea apparently. Anyway, thank you very much, Nate, or Ukulele Carnage. Nate E sends $5 with Noise. I too have a 36 horsepower PCS, which stands for Professional Cabinet Saw. I got to tell y'all, I was running on a DeWalt, I think DW735 might have been was that the saw or was that the planer? And that thing burned wood. Like a blade only didn't burn wood it would become a burning wood. That's probably my fault. But also like you had to I'd be sore. This new one cuts through maple, which is probably my hardest wood I ever use. A lot of people don't know because there's soft maple and hard maple, and soft maple is actually harder than most other hardwoods. Like it's harder than walnut, but because it's called soft maple, it's soft in comparison to hard maple. That's the way in which it's soft. And so it cut through maple like fucking butter. Just, and it's quiet. It's so quiet compared to my old saw. And that's using the 40 tooth blade it came with. I have an 80 tooth blade ready to go on it. And I'm sitting here like, fuck man, I don't know that I need to. I might just buy another zero clearance, fucking thing. What are they called? Zero clearance. Fuck, what is the term for the thing that covers the blade? I might buy an extra one of those for when I do change the blade in case it can't just be used straight across the 82 versus the 40. 735 is the planer. Got it. Get some Ridge carbide blade. Amazing. For the planer, I should get some Ridge carbide blades. You're probably right. Every time I watch somebody change the blades, y'all, if you want to just send super chats about woodworking, I will stay as long as you want if we're talking about woodworking. I swear to God that I don't believe in. You all want to turn the remainder of the show into woodworking shit? I'll fucking do that all goddamn night long because that's the thing I'm trying to escape back to. I also have so much fucking production work. I told y'all about my fucking list of things to do, but I will stay as long as the questions are woodworking related, which by the way, I'm not in no ways qualified to even do that. Like I am pretty good, but I'm far from great. I think I'm only starting to become confident enough to go, this might be worth becoming content here soon. Anyway, y'all look at how the beard today. I mean, granted, I have been brushing it during the show, getting all my wispies out. It also just feels good. I didn't like the feeling of, because it's quite scratchy. I didn't like it at first. Anyway, yeah, you're probably right though that I should get some. Every time I watch somebody change the blades on those things, I'm like, fucking Christ, would somebody do this for $40? I'd pay $40 because I think a person who can do it well can do it in like 15 minutes. And I think I have such a, I have to get the tightness and everything just right. I take 8 hours. I'd give you $40 to do it for me. Anyway, it doesn't look any more woodworking super chats are coming in. Anti-disestablishmentarianism is also a fun word. It's one of the first really long words people make. My username on Instagram is the same as Twitter. It's Jimmy A. Snow. Most likely. Pretty sure. I haven't put a ton of stuff up there yet, but I've been putting some stuff up there. Oh, here's a good one. I'm waiting for it to come to my system so I can send it through. Sometimes I use, because of the shortness, I just dropped it on the floor. Luckily it's right under my foot and it went handle side down. I do sometimes use it on just my head, but boy, if you want to wonder how much, not dandruff, but dry, whatever, this brush makes. I'll sit and look at my scalp. I'm like, all right, pretty good. I don't need like a dandruff shampoo or anything. And then you use it with this thing and you're like, and it snowed. It fucking snowed. Blizzarded. We had a blizzard. Which wood smells the best when you cut it? Best smelling wood. To tell you the truth, and this is really boring, I'm quite partial to the smell of pine. But pine isn't a wood I'm using tons of, only to build like structural things for my shop. Like I'm about to build a set of shelves for these long totes that I want to put sliders on, like a slider table basically on each shelf that these big totes can just slide out on to get access to. And those will use 2x4s, but I quite like how pine smells fresh cut. Maple's fine. I kind of like maple, how maple smells if it burns. I don't really like the smell of walnut. I don't really like the smell of Paduke. Cherry's quite good. Cherry smells nice cut. Yeah, probably cherry. Probably cherry's the real answer. Then like the really... rarely do I have even the ability to smell. Like if I'm doing a really exotic wood, something like marbled African ebony, I probably have full mask air respirator shit on, because some of those more exotic woods that were not grown around, the allergic reactions you're going to have to that dust is not worth the risk. Whereas we have some exposure to wood dust just from all the constructions and stuff that happened around us, and because local trees fall and shit. Though a lot of people get cedar fever, which I think is their allergy to cedar. Cedar does smell quite nice too. That's why I'm Jimmy Snow, because of my dry head. All right, well, I think that's it. We're good. We're done. I think it seems to be over. That was the last of the super chats. There is no co-host. Why would I switch to that one? Brow. We're back here. Thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for everybody for hanging out. Thanks for joining me at my impulse, my wanna, I had a Cus I Wanna envy of Matt's Cus I Wanna. Don't forget, we're going to do that bracketed. If we get 500 patrons this month, we're going to do that bracketed chess competition against Matt Dillahunty. There'll be prizes at different tiers. What the prizes themselves yet will be remain to be seen and determined. It'll also be interesting to see how many people. The only way you can be in that tournament, it may not be the only way you can see the tournament, but the only way for sure that you can be in it is if you become a patron. So patreon.com/calltheline. But also remember that supporting the Patreon supports the future of this channel and all the ways in which we want to expand, both in additional shows on the line as well as certain live form content. Our desire to open a community center and a production studio, you could call it. All of those things become unlocked with how much more easily predictable revenue from Patreon is versus YouTube, which is a piece of shit. No, I love YouTube, but its predictability is not good. It is not good. Boy, I should just always do every show at this exact angle. Wait, I had it before. Now I've got a corner. There, I caught an angle where I was like, my God, who's this guy? Fucking ugly dude. But sometimes I show up and I'm semi-passable. All right. Love y'all. Thanks for watching. Come hang out tomorrow on the Sunday show with Matt and I, and hit up Patreon as well as the Line X. Make sure you're subscribed over there. Patreon wet t-shirt concept with Matt and Jimmy. I'm sure we would do it if we got like 5,000 patrons this month. 5,000. But first of all, I don't think 5,000 people watch this live. Maybe they will. I mean, 5,000 people may make it to this point in the show, but I just don't. I ain't worried about. I'd do a wet t-shirt for $5,000, and I don't want anyone to see what's going on under here. So clearly, I don't think it'll actually happen. Not $5,000, 5,000 patrons. We need that recurring income. Aye. All right. Bye, everyone. Links are in the description. Boom. Boom.